Good evening, everyone. The July 16th, 2025 Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals hearing is now in session. I am Richard Kaplan, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. This board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In tonight's addition to myself, we have a full slate of Intimalis, Judy Freshman, Carol McCoskry, and Alex Kumana. Also present is the professional staff, which includes Megan Ryan, BZA Associate Planner, Brett Goldberg, BZA Associate Planner, Stephen Rissy, Zoning Prim Supervisor. To avoid disruptions, good timing, we ask that you please place your mobile devices in silent mode. Before we begin tonight's hearing, I will discuss this board's powers and procedures for tonight's hearing. This board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests solely with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. First, the BZA can approve use permits that allow for modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. In order to approve a use permit, the Arlington County zoning ordinance requires that this board find that the proposals will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plan and land use and zoning related policies of the county. In making these findings, the BZA shall consider whether the modifications will promote compatibility of the development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall size, footprint, and placement are similar to those of the structures on properties surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees or foliage. When approving use permits, this board may impose conditions that it deems necessary and in the public interest, including but not limited to the duration of that use permit. Second, the BZA can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, and the need for a variance would not be shared generally by other properties, and such variance is not contrary to the purposes of the ordinance. Or that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property or improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance, or alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested by or on behalf of a person with a disability. In all variance cases, the property for which the variance is being requested must have been acquired in good faith, and any hardship was not created by the applicant. The variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or neighboring properties in the proximity of that geographic area, that the condition or situation of the property concerned is not of so general or reoccurring in nature as to make reasonably practical in adoption of an amendment to the ordinance, that the granting of the variance would not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification of the property, and that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available through a special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinance. Third, the BZA shall hear and decide appeals of the zoning administrator or from any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by any other administrative officer in the administration or enforcement of Title 15.2, Article 7 of the Code of Virginia. In exercising its powers, this board may reverse or affirm, wholly or in part, or may modify an order, requirement, decision, or determination appealed. The determination of the administrative officer or zoning administrator shall be presumed correct by this board. The appellant has the burden of proof to rebut that presumption of correctness by a preponderance of the evidence. This board shall consider any applicable ordinance, laws, and regulations in making its decision and must base our judgment on whether the administrative officer was correct. The concurring vote of a majority of this membership of this board shall be necessary to reverse any order or determination. Now on to tonight's hybrid hearing. For those who are participating in person, on the front of the table, you will find a QR code linking a copy of the application package, including the staff report for each case before us this evening. For those participating virtually, a copy of each application package can be found on the Arlington County BZA website. There is also a link in the chat for that application package. I recommend that if you have not seen that report for your case, that you review that report before your case is called. If you are attending virtually and lose connectivity, please reconnect with us by phone. If you are attending via Teams, please keep yourself muted and cameras off until called upon. Turn off the sound on any other devices around you to minimize interference. When called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located in the meeting command bar. County staff does not have the ability to unmute you. The meeting chat is active for technical support assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion of public comments, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally or have been previously provided in writing for the record during the assigned public testimony period. This evening, staff will call each case and will provide a brief staff report and recommendation. Next, board members will ask any questions of staff that they may have. Applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Next, all speakers for the items will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip online or is available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. This board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. For tonight's hearing, this board has deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 20 minutes for applicants of appeals, 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances, 3 minutes for representatives of organizations, and 2 minutes for other individuals. After the board has gathered all information we need and have discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority of the membership of this board is needed to approve any motion. Please be respectful of the time allotted. This is a public forum and tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted on the county's website. All information associated with tonight's hearing, whether spoken or written, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance or leave at your convenience. I have no business other than our agenda. I don't have any additional items that we need to attend to tonight. Does anyone else have any business before we call the first case? Ms. Ryan, will you please call our first case?
Yes, case number V-12045-45, or sorry, -24-VA-3, a carryover and revised, a variance request by Joseph Shardelli on behalf of K-Bright Enterprises LLC, the owner, to permit the construction of a new one-family detached dwelling on a property with insufficient lot area and lot width requirements for the RA 1426 district, to permit a street setback of 9.9 feet to the building wall, 9.2 feet to the building eave instead of 25 feet, 21 feet to the building eave as required, to permit a street setback of 5.6 feet to the porch platform and porch eave instead of 21 feet, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, to permit a right side setback of 4.2 feet to the building wall, 3.2 feet to the building eave instead of 10 feet, 6 feet to the building eave as required, to permit a right side setback of 3.1 feet to the balcony and window wells instead of 6 feet as required, to permit a right side setback of 4.7 feet to the chimney instead of 8.5 feet as required, to permit a left side setback of 5.9 feet to the building wall, 5.6 feet to the building eave instead of 10 feet, 6 feet to the building eave as required, to permit a left side setback of 3.6 feet and 2.3 feet to the stormwater planters and areaway respectively instead of 6 feet as required, and to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 10.1 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a new one-family detached dwelling in the RA 1426 zoning district on the premises known as 5389 8th Road South in Arlington Mill. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance request. An alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this application? I don't hear any. Is the applicant with us?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you raise the podium up? There should be an arrow on it. Can you raise the podium up so the microphone gets closer? There should be an arrow on the right. Or, okay. Has not happened before. Thank you. Thanks for your help. Much better, right? Now we can hear you, right? Would you like to speak to your application? Would you like to speak to your application?
Is that better? Okay, there we go. All right, I'm ready to begin. Chairperson, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Habib Shertle. I'm here on behalf of Carbide Enterprises LLC, which means my dad, who's here with us today, the gentleman not as good looking as I am in the gray suit. Next to him is our architect, Mr. Salvatore Benfega, who's probably done about a dozen revisions at this point, trying to make this as code compliant as possible. We're here to respectfully request your approval for a variance to permit the construction of a single-family detached home on a vacant parcel located at 5389 8th Road South. This property is unique both in its history and physical configuration. It was created by a subdivision in 1948 and has remained undeveloped for over 75 years, precisely because it is legally unbuildable by right under today's zoning standards. Its triangular shape, narrow 45-foot width, and a small lot area of only 1,867 square feet make it one of the most constrained parcels in the RA 14-26 apartment district. The strict application of the current zoning regulations effectively prohibits any construction. Even if we were to meet all coverage requirements, setbacks alone leave us less than 150 square feet of buildable area, far short than what's feasible for residential use. Without your approval for this variance, the land will remain indefinitely vacant and unusable in perpetuity. That is the very definition of unreasonable restriction and legal hardship under Virginia law. The hardship here is not self-created. It originates from a mid-20th century subdivision over which neither I nor the current owner have had any control. We acquired this property in good faith in 2017 with the goal of transforming a long vacant weeded lot into a livable home that respects the character of this evolving neighborhood. Since our last submission in 2023, we listened closely to the feedback of the BZA members of the board and concerns raised by staff. We redesigned the home, reducing its overall lot coverage and removing lot coverage from the variance request entirely, now being under the maximum allowable lot coverage code limit, previously asking over 48%. Now we're down to 42 and change from an allowable 43%, decreasing its height as well and removing the request for a height variance, increasing the setbacks, and relocating mechanical equipment to the roof to reduce the impact on neighbors, as well as removing the variance for a 6-foot fence. The proposed structure meets all lot coverage requirements. We're not asking for more buildable area than what the code allows. We're only asking for relief for setbacks that were never written with such an atypical triangular lot in mind. The lot is not general nor reoccurring, and myself nor Arlington County BZA were able to identify even one single-family home in the RA 14-26 district. BZA staff, previously referenced 812 South Harrison Street as an example of a property being commonly recurring. However, that property is a semi-detached home and it's not a single-family home, so it's essentially comparing apples to oranges. Furthermore, we've made every effort to be good neighbors. The previous application essentially meant a couple of letters sent out to the neighbors, and that was it for outreach. I personally, as a lifelong born and raised Arlingtonian, went out there over 5 times and spoke to neighbors, being there for hours on end, hours at a time. Some of the conversations would last an hour or more. Some people were a lot more interested than others, but to everyone I offered and showed my plans, the elevations, the plat, and the effects that it would have on their property. We also reached out to the Arlington Civic Mill Association, and after attending multiple Zoom meetings with them and discussing all of our plans, they voted unanimously in support of our project. Please bear with me. This is my first time ever at a BZA hearing. So next door, there are over 40 townhomes, and when it was created, the developer destroyed all the greenery, grass, trees, shrubs, and natural enhancements, and kind of left the property looking like an abandoned construction site, which to this day still has a chain link fence placed around it by the developers. The proposed home is a single-family dwelling exactly like the type encouraged by both the RA 1426 zoning district and the county's GLUP low-medium residential designation. We're not asking to build a commercial facility. We're not asking for a multifamily development. We're asking to build a single home on a parcel that otherwise serves no purpose. And we're not seeking to exploit the code, but to rather unlock the full potential of a parcel that's been overlooked for decades. Be wrapping it up briefly. To deny this variance would not be to reject a building. It would be to reject the practical use of land that is unbuildable without relief. It would set a precedent that unusual lot shades, even those created generations ago, are permanently lost to disuse, regardless of whether thoughtful, appropriately scaled homes can be designed for them. To top it off, while I understand and appreciate variances are a one-off thing and not to be compared, I can reference 3 properties right now that were both built with similar lot sizes of about 2,000 square feet or less, including one that was bought at the same tax auction that we acquired our property from, some even 1,500 square feet, which have been approved by the BZA, and with lot coverages exceeding the code maximum, some being over 60%, with setbacks as small as 1.5 feet from the property line. I say this not to disparage, but to highlight the potential of the BZA and its capabilities to create perfectly functioning homes in situations where the property's potential may not be immediately apparent, yet they've gained notoriety in the community for their uniqueness, contribution to the neighborhood, and positive inflow of a piece of land otherwise lost in the wind with no other real potential function. In closing, I urge you to consider not just what the code says, but what it means, protecting neighborhoods from incompatible development and not to the entombed properties into permanent vacancy. This proposal is compatible with the area, consistent with the GLUP, responsive to prior feedback, and overwhelmingly supported by neighbors. I respectfully ask for your vote of yes on this variance so we can give life to a long forgotten corner of 8th Road South and continue this effort of developing the new Columbia Pike Corridor. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. And next, if you don't have any questions, I'd like to invite Mr. Salvador Mabanga to speak to why the property is designed the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for this applicant? Thank you. So this speaker has used the allotted time. Do my colleagues have an interest in hearing more about the design of the property? Yes.
We can ask questions. We can
Yeah, I mean,
quick questions. We can.
I think the applicant has used the allotted time, and that's why I wanted to ask my colleagues if they wanted to hear anything else. I didn't want to make
Good.
that. So, so with that being said, do my colleagues have any questions of the applicant or his design representative? Mr. Kumana, go ahead.
Hi. So this was purchased in 2017, right?
Yes, sir.
And when it was purchased, the idea was to develop a single family home or some building on it. That was the,
Yes, sir.
and I guess, were you all aware of like the history of the
We're
property?
not aware that there was a previous attempt, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion with the board. Does anyone want to?
I have a great deal of concern about this application because the small size of the property and trying to squeeze a single family home onto that property. And there are other options within the RA 1426 zoning district. It's not like this is in an R6 zoning district that would only allow for single family homes. So I don't agree that this is an unreasonable restriction to not allow a single-family home on this property. And I think there's a significant difference between allowing a single-family home on this size property and the semi-detached on the other property that was cited as an example. So I do not think I can support this one.
Thank you, Ms. McCuskey. Mr. Kumana, did you?
I guess that was my first question, and I probably should have asked it to staff. What could be built on here? I mean, could anything be built here besides a tot lot and donated to the community, I guess?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
It's just, if a single family home by right can't be built here, obviously we wouldn't be here if that were the case. What can be built here by right? Anything?
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that question just because we have nothing to review.
I guess I think it's nothing. I think nothing could be.
I think Mr. Rissy has some insight.
Perfect.
Yes, good evening. The all other uses category for the RA 1426 zoning district is 5,000 square feet. So the applicant is correct. There is no by right use for the property given its size.
Ms. McCuskey.
Yeah, Mr. Rissy, but it is correct that if this property were, one could theoretically get a variance for some other type of use if it were combined with other properties. There could be a semi-detached house, or there are, and as Ms. Ryan has pointed out, we don't have anything before us, but within the RA 1426, single family isn't the only option, and something else could theoretically be created. They might still require a variance to build their semi-detached because it's such a small piece of property. But, and this is where my concern is, that what we're being asked to approve is a single family, which is a minimum 5,000 square foot lot size, and there are some smaller lot sizes required for other uses within this district. Admittedly, I don't know that this property could meet those, and on its own, it's probably not going to meet them, but I still think that to say that this is an unreasonable restriction on the property and that this isn't going to rezone it to a use that's not otherwise allowed, I find all that very difficult in these circumstances.
No, I was just so I mean, this case to me presents a question of whether there's a, it's not by right, but whether under the variance process any applicant has a right to build a single family. There's no minimum lot size, right? So then what comes in next? 1,000 square feet, and where does that end? And my feeling here is that if the county board wanted to allow, really tiny parcels to be built on in a certain manner, that they could do that. And part of what, one of our findings has to be that it would be reasonably practicable for the county board to issue an ordinance. And I think that this is a case that meets that test, that this is not the only undersized, under 6,000 square foot lot, and even under 3,000 square foot lot, whatever a cutoff can be. And I think that this would be an issue that would be more of a county board issue than for us to be able to grant a variance. The second point, just to follow up on my colleague's question or conversation, is that this is not the only single family use plan, right? So the plan before us tonight is a pretty significant plan in that it's five stories tall and takes up a pretty significant footprint of the lot in question. Although it's within the coverage guidelines, it still necessitates, a paragraph full of use permit exceptions, right? If this were a use permit, it would be, 5 or 6 different asks. And so it's also asking a lot in terms of the exceptions required, and in this case, under a variance. So I don't think it's an inappropriate statement to say that that this might, I'm not against any single family home. It's that this one is a really big one, both in terms of its look and stature in that on that particular lot. And I also just wanted to point out that I don't think we have much of the feedback from surrounding neighbors. I think we have one, right? So of the people most affected, we don't have 813. We don't have 811. I think we had 807, but we don't have 805 of the surrounding people who are directly connected to the lot. And I don't know if we have 5379 either in the other complex. And so you know, we don't have any pro or cons from any of them as well. But I don't think you know, even without that feedback, I don't think I would be in a position I could support this one. A long-winded way of coming to that conclusion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing
Ms.
to make,
Malice.
whenever the discussion is completed, I'm willing to make a motion.
So if no one else has anything further to add, Miss, did you have something, Mr. Kamala?
Yeah, it's obviously not for this board to determine. It's unfortunate that this even exists without having a use for it. And some point in the past 6 years failed the residents of the county. And I sympathize for the applicants that no one gave them good counsel or advice on this. Because you're right. I mean, I've only been here for a short time, but it's probably a step further than some of the applications we normally get. But it's really unfortunate for the folks, you know, applying for this. And I just want to say that you know, it's really unfortunate.
Thank you. Ms. Malice.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion, but I'm looking at the staff resolution and I would change the first whereas to find that strict application of the ordinance would not unreasonably restrict utilization of the property.
That's the second whereas. If you notice, the first paragraph has a whereas. So just so we know what we're amending.
I'm sorry?
The first paragraph above it also has a whereas. So that will be
Oh.
the second whereas paragraph. And I
You're
agree
right,
with
the
that.
second, yes. So I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying variance V-12045-24-VA-3. According to the resolution provided by staff with the change on the second resolution to read, whereas the BZA finds that strict application of the terms of the ordinance would not unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property.
Second.
I would like to propose another friendly amendment as well. Under the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th whereas, the resolution says the hardship was created by the applicants. I think that the hardship was created by the applicant's plan for the use of the lot. I don't know that they're bringing a hardship to this plan, right? They just bought a lot,
Well, they bought a lot that was unbuildable.
but that's not a hardship, I don't think.
Mhm. Okay, so you want to say it was not created by the applicant?
I want to say that the hardship is by the applicant's specific plan.
Well, it says created by the applicants, so
Okay,
I think that includes
the plan.
the plan.
That's fair enough. Okay, I withdraw my, so an motion for denial with a change as advertised by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for denial passes 5-0. Thank you. We have no additional speakers signed up. But the architect is part of your presentation, and your presentation is allotted 5 minutes.
But he's
But
he's part of your team.
he's part of your team. Or part of your allotted presentation.
It's over.
The board has voted and your case is over.
No.
Each one process about. Just want to understand the characteristics of the property that's.
That's what staff.
You're welcome to talk with staff afterwards, but we have another 10 items on the agenda that we have to get to. And this board doesn't provide, feedback ahead of time about what we would or wouldn't approve. We can only look at the plan in front of us. I mean,
We've voted.
I think that was part of the record before us, and we took that into consideration, and you heard the discussion that we've all had.
Ryan, can you call the next case?
Yes, case number V-1204625UP-2 carryover use permit request by William Bork on behalf of Matthew and Laura Venos, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 16.7 feet to the rear porch, 16.6 feet to the porch eaves, and 12.6 feet to the wall, 12.5 feet from the house eaves from the rear property line instead of 21 feet to the porch and house eaves, 19.5 feet to the porch eaves, and 25 feet to the wall is required, and to permit a separation of 5 feet between main building wall and accessory building wall instead of 8 feet as required, regarding 2-story side and rear additions, a 1-story porch at a right or a rear side door, a 2nd-story over existing side porch in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 4910 13th Street North, Waycraft, Woodland. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. We did receive supplemental material in the form of a BZA comment form, and we have 3 additional speakers that have signed up.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. My recollection from 2 months ago was that this got deferred because we were down a member and it was split 2-2.
It was last month.
That was it. It seems like forever ago. So with that being said, do my colleagues have any questions for staff? Is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application? We were not a full board last time you were here.
Yeah. Very nice to see you all again.
I bet.
Mr. Kana. Wish you would have been here last time. Before I get started, I would like to mention that our representative, Bill Burke from Moore Architects is here if there are any technical questions. With that, I'll start my 5 minutes. I'm here this evening to request from the Board of Zoning Appeals that they reapprove a special use permit that was granted December 16th of 2020. At that time, the BZA found that the proposal will not affect adversely the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, is not detrimental to public welfare, and is not in conflict with purposes of master plans and land use and zoning policies of the county. Unfortunately, for personal reasons, at that time, we were not able to begin our renovation. So this evening, we are requesting the same use permit under the same circumstances. I think actually we have reduced the setback by 0.1 foot from what was approved previously. I remember Chairman Kaplan was concerned about it being too close to the rear lot line, which is an understandable understandable comment. There was a map up there earlier that showed on the eastern end of our block. The lots are, I won't say big and beautiful, but they are much larger than the lots as you moved west along the block. It is also worth noting on section 1 of the staff report, in our application here that there are 3 homes in a 1 block radius of a 1 block diameter of our home that have a smaller rear yard setback and accessory building separation than what we are requesting this evening. Based on the layout of our lot and the size and the requirements, we don't want to come here and waste everyone's time because we just think it would be really cool to put it back here. We have a large tulip poplar tree that we love, our neighbors love, and we do not want to touch. So we are sort of limited on that side of our lot. And moving forward too much, well, it could be possible. It would increase the cost of our renovation significantly. And we want to keep the architecture of our home in line with the classic architecture of Arlington County. We have been in a number of times we have reached out and spoken to our neighbors on this. All of our neighbors, except for 2 of them, are in support of our plans that we have before you today. Our next door neighbor at 4904 13th Street, the Erskines, whose support memo is within the application, will be affected quite a bit by the renovation that we are proposing here, and they are in favor of it. They will be the ones that will be seeing most of the renovation, the final product once it's done. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Bill could also answer any, as I said, technical questions.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions before this applicant sits down? Nope. Let's hear from the speakers. Ms. Goley.
Question.
We have a long agenda tonight, so I think we have to stick as close to the 2 minutes as we can. Is your microphone, I'm sorry, is your microphone on? Is the microphone on? It's hard to hear you, so I'm not sure the microphone is on.
You have the red on. Yes, it's on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Better.
Okay. I'm Mary Ann Goley. I reside at 4909 Washington Boulevard since 1979. My property is the one most impacted by this proposal. For your consideration, I would like to share the technical analysis of the proposal I requested from DeLashmutt Associates, engineers and surveyors who are well respected in this region. Point number 1, the addition to the back will be closer to the rear property line than either of the neighboring houses. Point number 2, the permit states that the impervious area will increase by 390.4 square feet. This will cause an increase in runoff from the property post-development. Point 3, there's already been a small dry well added and additional rain barrels are proposed to mitigate runoff. However, the amount isn't quantified. DeLashmutt suggests to size the dry well per the Virginia runoff reduction method used in LDA plans in accordance with county standards for dry wells. Point 4, the application states there was regrading and 2 additional dry wells added, but they don't appear on the plan. Were they sized appropriately? Are they outside the current limits of disturbance? Point 5, looking at detail A1.4, the disturbed area cited as 2473 square feet is too close to the legal limit of 2,500. Someone has to be responsible for that, allowing disturbance to not go over the legal limit. The total of 2473 square feet depends on not counting the existing patios or disturbed space. Is that the case? If the screen porch is being rebuilt, should not its footprint be considered as disturbed? The application excludes both the existing addition and porch from the disturbed area at 2,500 square feet. A full civil LDA plan is required. And finally, I wish to advocate for an alternative suggested by Carol McCuskey at the June 11th meeting. Build to the left, not to the back. This was something the Venoses were considering up to the deadline for this meeting. Their architect called the BZA staff to say they were going to submit new plans that would eliminate the need to extend to the rear. In my view, this would be a reasonable solution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Kim with us?
They were going to play a video for me. So that's looking from my driveway up towards Matt's house there in the background. I think we're going to need a few more rain barrels. I'm Chris Kim at 4907 Washington Boulevard. I'm the owner of the other property affected to the rear. And there's so much to go over here. I don't know, Matt didn't tell you about the tulip poplar he cut down, did he? The one that almost crashed into his house? The tree you took down.
I'm sorry, we're not going to address other parties while we're here. So you can talk to us.
I am. I picked up on a couple things you were saying. No option. There are lots of options. You've got 20 some feet to the front, to the east, 8 feet to the front. You're going to have the whole roof torn off anyway. Go out to the front. I find it a little weird that you can think about no more 25-foot setback if it landscapes, so I don't have to see it. You can put a substation in my backyard as long as I don't see it. I mean, I know when I talked to Matt and then let's see. Oh, well, here's the elephant in the room. Matt's garage floods every time it rains heavy. So his building out is to block the rain going into his garage, which is going to force more rainwater into mine. I'm on the downhill side. Yeah, the 3 faults and stuff he built, he didn't build them for me. I've gotten a little bit of use out of them, so to speak, indirectly, but he built it for his flooding garage. I've not seen any grading plans, so I don't, the grade shouldn't change. Originally, this was a 2-bedroom. All right, there are 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor originally in this house. He's trying to put 4, fine, but put it to the front and to the left. I don't need it in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Ms. McCrusk,
Yeah, Mr.
Sir,
Kim.
Mr. Kim, we have a quick question.
Yeah, just that video you showed of the water, when was that taken?
That was when Westover got wiped out.
What year?
It was a couple years ago.
Okay.
2014.
I've seen that a few times. I've got one from last night. It was not quite as impressive, but it's a pretty steady flow. That's been turned over to the county. We're on some master storm drain improvement list, but I think we're way down the list.
Mr. Kamana.
Thank you for the video. And this is probably a silly question, but how would is the implication that construction would make the flooding worse?
Well, he's going to be pushing out. That's water is coming across Mary Ann's yard and mine from the upper end of the block. The block is like this.
Into
Matt-
your property?
Huh?
It's slanted into
Yeah,
your
that's coming from Matt's property-ish. Matt's property and his neighbor up from him and across Mary Ann's.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, this is Bill Burke. I had my hand raised. Am I allowed to say something?
No, I'm sorry. We're sticking to people who have signed up to speak.
Well, I thought since I'm the applicant or the
Oh, yeah. We're gonna go through the rest of the speakers, and then if we want to circle back, we can.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Who's the next speaker? There's one more.
Yeah, there should be one more. Madeline Bloom.
Ms. Bloom.
Good evening. My name is Madeline Bloom. I live at 4907 Washington Boulevard. I am the other side of the fence neighbor to the Vanoses. When did 14 feet 7 inches become the new 25 feet? Were the architect and builder not aware of Arlington's setback requirements? 14.7 is 58.8% of the required 25 feet. The statement of justification says the use permit would allow the house to be expanded to make room for bedroom and kitchen sizes more in keeping with modern standards. The house was built in 1935 and was not designed for rooms of those sizes. The sizes found in a McMansion. My house is also built in 1935 and has a living room scarcely larger than the depth of their proposed backyard. Rain barrels and 3 dry wells may help slow the flow of water into their garage as intended, but it will play no role in helping to mitigate flood damage toward Washington Boulevard. Rainwater retention vaults, anyone? Was no alternative plan proposed? We never imagined this project would be approved, which is why we didn't object last time. We have a granddaughter who spends half of her time with us. She is autistic and cannot tolerate noise. She cannot tolerate the vacuum cleaner. The demolition and construction will be impacting her very significantly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bloom. I think it would only be fair to allow the applicant a brief opportunity to respond to. Did you have questions?
Yeah, I have questions for the applicant and you can ask
Okay, Ms. Malice.
for the applicant. I think it was Miss Golding mentioned that you had another plan in your back pocket to build
I'm
out to the
unaware. We hadn't submitted anything. We have no.
staff. Are you aware of an alternate plan that Miss Golding was referring to?
I think I had talked with the applicant about potentially making changes, but we wouldn't have enough time in order to review it for this
Yes,
report.
we didn't make any. We were saying after the last meeting, it was, well, what are other options that we can look at? Maybe we should try to find something else that works. After talking to our architect, we decided that this is the most appropriate layout.
But is that based on the hearing was scheduled? Would more time be helpful?
No,
okay.
we love this plan. Yeah, we've been looking at it for 5
Right,
years.
because if we move, as you saw from the last application, if we move forward with a vote, then the vote's been taken. And so if I don't know where my colleagues are, if anyone's mind has changed or anything, but if we were to move forward with a vote and we get denial, then you would be starting over. If more time would be helpful to try and come up with something because it seems like you have a lot of rear neighbor opposition who are the most closely affected neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if your representative had spoken with staff earlier and the issue was, we have a hearing tonight and that you didn't have enough time, that's one thing. But if this is the plan and it's the only plan, then that's another.
Yeah, this is the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Could I
Ms.
address
Freshman.
that, please?
yeah, I was just suggest that it might be helpful for a very brief comment from the agent who apparently might have some interesting comment.
I was going to get to that after Ms. Malice's question. Did you have a question? Your microphone was on, so.
Yeah, we don't have a condition to preserve this poplar tree at this point, do we? I saw there was one, I think, when this was done in 2020, but I just wondered what.
We would be happy to maintain the same conditions that were approved in 2020.
Okay.
And might I say the video that Mr. Kim showed, yeah, it's pretty bad. And it is our entire block that is having this issue. We have personally installed another 100 gallon dry well in the front of our yard. It is not on the plan because it was permit wasn't required for it, so I didn't put it. It wasn't put on the plans. It will not be disturbed as part of this renovation if approved. Stormwater is an issue. It's an issue on our block, on many blocks in Arlington. It's unfortunate. We've done what we can to mitigate as much as possible, and we will agree as part of the conditions from 2020. We will continue to attempt to mitigate with the rain barrels as a condition of the use permit.
So one other question I had, the screen porch that's existing today, are you putting a room above that screen porch?
That's the plan now. That may change. That may, if there's a change, that may change. That is the addition of the 4th bedroom.
So is that going to require work to the foundation under that screen porch?
Yes.
Well, no, that we were
Oh.
planning to keep the porch and just build above it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
So the existing foundation is sufficient to support the screen porch with the room above?
That's correct. And the reason why we don't want to disturb the foundations is because we know it would likely damage the poplar tree if we try to do anything on that side of the yard.
Yeah. That's why we're trying to build on the opposite side of the lot, is to keep this tree going.
So a question for staff based on that. If this applicant decides not to build over the porch, then if this board were to approve this, then that would be sufficient? Or does that change their plan because it's not to building to the plans that they're submitting to us?
I guess what would alter? Sorry.
So if this applicant decides not to build the bedroom over the porch, would that applicant have to return to us? Because one of our conditions is typically it's built to the plans as submitted. And that typically would lock an applicant not only into the footprint, but also into the design.
I think if you approved it a certain way and put in that condition that they're not, or said they weren't going to build over the porch, you could have that in there.
Mr. Rissy has his hand up.
Yes, I would say that your approval is permissive and doesn't require them. So they would have the ability to build that, but if they chose not to build any part of it, for example, they previously got approval and didn't build any of it, there's nothing that requires them to build all of it. So I would say you're just giving them the option to do so.
So it's not all, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So it's not all or nothing here. They can pick and choose what we approve.
Yeah,
Okay.
they could always do less than what you have shown, but not more.
Ms. Mellis.
If it were a requirement, we would just leave the porch as it is, maybe change some trim to improve it a bit, but the basic structure would stay exactly as it is.
Ms. Mellis.
Yeah, going back to the conditions that you previously agreed to. One was the poplar tree, and then the other had to do with stormwater collection. And that condition, as I understand it, referred to materials submitted for the record back in 2020. Are those materials regarding stormwater in your package now that we could refer to? Stormwater retention?
I'll let Bill speak to that. I know that we had agreed to what was 60-gallon rain barrels.
Okay, I'm just thinking ahead if there was a positive motion, what that condition would look like.
Yeah, we can define that. Oh, sorry.
I believe that's in the plans. I don't have them in front of me, but the thing they agreed to was to have, I think it was 6 or 7 large rain barrels to collect water.
So they're shown in the plans?
Yes.
I believe so, but I don't have it in front of me. So if they're not shown, we would certainly put them back in. If they're not there, it was just an inadvertent
What page
mistake.
would they be on if they were in the plans?
I think it would be on the first floor plan. I don't know the number of it.
First floor plan.
It looks to be page 26 of 108 in our materials.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And so one of those circles is the poplar, probably, right?
Yeah, the big circle in the front right of the house is the poplar, and then smaller circles on the corner of the houses. The corners of the house would be the rain barrels.
2, 3, 4. I see 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
5. Is that the right number?
It sounds right, yeah.
Okay.
So 5 times 60 would be 300 gallons of water that they would collect.
And that's on top of the 150 that we already have collecting.
Right, in the dry wells.
Um,
Which, by the way, Matt did proactively without anyone telling him he had to do.
Yeah. And I don't believe any of our neighbors north or south of us have any dry wells installed to help. So we're the only ones in our immediate area that are working to mitigate that water.
And I would add, they're avid gardeners, so they will use the water in those rain barrels for good purposes.
Did your agent have anything briefly that he wanted to address?
I just had a couple of real brief points. I wanted to point out how important that poplar tree was to the Venoses. Someone had asked whether we had considered alternatives, and we certainly did. We didn't arrive at this proposal lightly. But the main driving force was really that they wanted to save that poplar for the neighbors, for the neighborhood, because it's so important to the character of the neighborhood. And one of the other main characters was they didn't want a big 2-story house. They wanted to maintain the character of the original house. Again, so it wouldn't be bigger than anything else that's in the neighborhood. It would keep the character. So I think these are a couple of things that they really should be applauded for. At a time when we see so many developers just clear cutting a lot and building out to the largest envelope they can do, these guys are trying to keep it reasonable and within the nature of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to point out that those were really the main driving factors for how we arrived at that plan.
Thank you. Anything further from my colleagues or discussion amongst ourselves? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
as you know, I don't remember if I made the motion, but I did vote affirmatively, and I would continue to do that tonight. And when the time came, I would make an affirmative motion.
Thank you, Ms. Malice. Your mic is on, so. Did Mr. Kumana?
Yeah, as I guess not being here last time, I know you discussed maybe some changes, but considering it stays with the character of the neighborhood, the tree is kept in place, and I mean, I feel it does a lot to mitigate a serious water problem. I'm comfortable voting in the affirmative, and as my colleague said, I'd like to, I'm affirmative the way it's written now, with no changes to their plan.
Thank you. And Ms. Malice, would you like to continue to make your motion? Unless my colleagues have anything else to add. I don't mean to cut anyone off.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit V-12046-25-UP-2, subject to the conditions listed plus 2 additional conditions That being the applicant agrees to maintain the poplar tree shown on the submitted plans in the front yard, or if the tree is destroyed, to maintain a replacement poplar tree in the same location. And I think this would be 5. And then 6, the applicant agrees to maintain the stormwater collection and retention infrastructure described in the materials submitted for the record for the July 16, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, unless the zoning administrator determines that the applicants are maintaining alternate stormwater mitigation that are no less protective of the abutting neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Malice.
Second.
A motion for passage with 2 additional conditions made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice?
I appreciate the water problem. I do believe it's real, and I believe the county agrees that it's real, but I don't feel that the entire burden of this water problem should rest on this applicant.
Thank you, Ms. Malice. I will just also add that, this is a very difficult case with clearly, strong feelings by rear neighbors. And, it's an unfortunate case with a pretty unique and particular lot and dealing with current issues. And I just wanted to acknowledge it's a tough case, and I think it's probably a tough case for everyone here in these circumstances. And I will not be changing my vote, but this was one of the harder cases that I've come across since I've been on the board. Ms. McCroskey.
Yeah, I also am not going to change my vote, and that is based on my belief that our finding has to be that it's consistent with the zoning policies. And I do think that the plan here is simply a change that doesn't honor the zoning related policies of the county. I do think I understand that there's a big stormwater problem, and I know these are problems many places in the county, and that doesn't really affect my vote, which is based as it was last time, on the location of the addition and the ability to place it in a manner that's much more consistent with the zoning plans and policies of the county.
And I didn't give the reasons as I did last month, but I echo those sentiments for the record. Anything further? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey?
No.
Mr. Kumana?
Aye.
Chair votes no. Motion passes for approval with 2 additional conditions, 3-2. Good luck with your project, and I hope that the water issue can get dealt with. Ms. Ryan, can you please call the next case?
Yes. Case number V-12054-25-VA-1, a variance request by John Greco, the owner, to permit a total lot coverage of 43% instead of 40% as permitted regarding a 1-story addition and new screen porch to an existing 1-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2607 John Marshall Drive, Leeway Overlay. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance. An alternative resolution and conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised, and there is an associated use permit for this application.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions on this application for staff? Is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application?
Years now. It's, as they say in medicine, a pre-existing condition. It was built in 1957, and it's sort of odd on the property. All of the questions have been answered by Juan Garzon, who is my architect, who is listening in and ready to answer questions, technical questions. I would simply like to say that the existing breezeway is dilapidated, and it has been like that since well before I owned the the building. And all I want to do is to make it what it was back in 1957, which is a screened-in porch between the kitchen and the cinder block one-car small garage. It's quite an eyesore now. As a matter of fact, I realized that pictures, only one picture was sent. If you really want to see. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. But anyway, if you can see this, this is what we're talking about. It needs to be taken down. And furthermore, the neighbors, most of whom I know and all of whom supported this, I think I have 8 affidavits in the packet, some of whom were very enthusiastic about me being able to do this. And not just because I promised gin and tonics on the screened-in porch. But the only extension, and it's all in the same footprint, but the only extension is 4.5 feet of the existing small kitchen into what is now the dilapidated breezeway. There's no hardship, there's no setbacks. The existing conditions do not change. And I think my neighbors would be delighted not to have to look at this anymore. And it will improve the neighborhood, it will improve property values for my neighbors and certainly for my house. And that's it.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for the applicant? No?
I guess
Ms. Freshman.
I have a question that I guess should have gone to staff first, but I seem to recall that there was an issue of whether or not this porch was actually attached to the garage, if that created more of an issue than if it was not.
Mm-hmm. I can answer that. So if the porch is not attached to the garage, so by removing the breezeway to do this project, it will bring the property into conformance with coverage, give a 5% bonus for a detached garage because the garage will go from attached to detached, giving a 5% coverage bonus. And then it also brings the garage into conformance with the setback. So instead of being attached to the main building, having to meet the 25-foot rear setbacks for the walls and the 8-foot for the side, it would only need to be 1 foot from the rear and side for a detached garage. So it'd bring, by not having the screen porch attached to the garage, it would bring into conformance for setbacks and coverage.
And Ms. Ryan, my recollection from similar cases that we've heard before is that there is no minimum detachment. It just has to be detached.
That's correct. There would be a separation requirement for a porch. So the kitchen addition for the building would need to be 8 feet, which they're already proposing to do. So they could do that if they took away the breezeway, they could do that by right with the setbacks and the coverage with that detached garage. If they want to do a screen porch, the screen porch would just need to be 4 feet away from the garage, a separation, because it gets the 4-foot encroachment into that. And then it, by actually keeping it 4 feet away from the garage, it then becomes 21 feet from that rear. So it would, if they have it 4-foot separation from the garage, it'd meet the rear setbacks as well as the separation.
So it's an imperfect solution to separate the two.
No, it's a
If
good
I may,
separating the two, though, the separation requirement is then alterable via a use permit and not a variance, which has a much lower standard than a variance.
Yes, if they want to pursue a use permit to have it's still, for a separation requirement, not to meet the 4-foot requirement.
Right. And then the second question is that this current house does not qualify for the 3% porch bonus as well, which wouldn't totally solve their problem, but would help if they had a bigger porch.
Yeah, if they had a qualified.
Because then that would
coverage.
get them a higher coverage as well.
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
There are other.
There are other
options. So multiple options.
Sorry, so I was just focusing. So this solution we've just sort of talked about, which is separating the porch, keeping the addition, that fixes the coverage problem because you get 45% when you have a detached garage. Is that
Correct. So you go
Okay.
from a minimum of 40 to 45 with that 5% bonus for the detached garage.
Had staff discussed this option with you?
Not with me. I'm going to defer to Juan Garzon, who should be on Teams.
Good evening, everybody. No, we haven't discussed this before either,
So,
Mr. John.
so I don't know where my colleagues are on this variance before us. I don't think I would support the variance before us as it is now, just because the state of Virginia gives us very high standards for a variance for us to meet. One of them being that a hardship on this lot has to be created, and I don't think that that's been shown. Another is that going over lot coverage is also an issue that the county board can make an ordinance about to affect not just a single property, but multiple, and it's a common issue that comes before us. That being said, if you wanted time to talk with your architect to come up with one of the solutions that would lessen the burden here from a variance to a use permit, or have something that might meet the criteria either for a use permit or variance, I would support a deferral for that. I don't know if that would be something that my colleagues are interested in, but I myself find a variance a hard ask in this case for those reasons. And again, that's without, I've not talked to my colleagues. I've not heard from them, so I don't know where they are on this variance.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
yeah, I don't see where any of the criteria for a variance has been met.
Is that sorry, Ms. Malice.
Yeah, if I may, just to get to the previous point, having a fire break of 4 feet between the small garage and the new breezeway would make the breezeway incredibly small, especially since we're expanding the kitchen into it 4.5 feet. It sort of obviates the whole idea of having a breezeway there. And the existing one, as the pictures show, is actually attached to the garage. So I don't understand why I would be penalized for just renovating what was originally in the original plan of the house, albeit 1957.
Mr. Greco, if you're not interested in an alternative, we can vote on the proposal as it's been submitted.
Oh, I'm Juan, I'll defer to you. I know you've talked, I know you've gone through the plans with the committee. I'm not averse to a compromise of some sort. I just am unprepared to talk about it.
No, John, I think we should consider the alternative as suggested by the board, and we can go back to them after looking at the different options.
Okay, that's fine with me.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying that this board is going to approve an alternative because it's not before us and we wouldn't know what we're approving. My only point is that a variance is a much higher standard than a use permit is. And so if this were coming to us before a use permit, the standard is more compatibility with the neighborhood and not showing a hardship.
And
I can't imagine that there's a hardship to anybody. It's the existing.
The hardship has to do with the actual property, not a hardship to someone else. So Virginia law requires us to find that there's an actual hardship with your property, the physical condition of your property, and in order to grant the variance, there's supposed to be rarely used one-off exceptions.
Well, the current hardship I deal with is this very ugly and dilapidated,
which is not a hardship under the Virginia standards.
I understand.
Did you get a chance to read the staff report?
Yes, I did.
Because it explains what a hardship means in the context of Virginia law.
Yeah.
Not, you and I may agree that that's a personal hardship, but it's not the definition in the Virginia code of a hardship.
Yeah. And I'm not quite understanding how it's a hardship, to renovate it.
Because the hardship is that it unreasonably restricts the utilization of your property.
How does it restrict the utilization of my?
It doesn't.
Oh, it does not. No,
Problem.
no, no. Yeah. Okay. No, I see. Yeah.
That's the
The
point.
problem
is that
is
the-
it doesn't
The statute requires it to unreasonably restrict the use of the property, requiring the variance.
that we would approve it if you showed us that it unreasonably restricts the use of your property.
It's wasted space.
Well, it's an economic
That's not-
question.
Right.
No, it's economic aesthetic,
So,
day-to-day use.
so we are off in August, and I don't think you would have enough time for August anyway. Is getting this on the, how full is the September agenda, Ms. Ryan? Do we know? It's early, so I don't know if you have any idea. Are we slammed? Because we're taking August off. Right, so we're looking, early as September, maybe October.
So far have about 5, maybe a couple more added on
For September.
For September.
for September
So
at
it sounds
this
like
point.
September's pretty reasonable then.
It's doable if it's doable from,
If it's just a use permit, it wouldn't be as complicated. It depends on what changes they decide
What
to
change-
make,
we
if
don't know.
any,
Right.
and we don't know. So I think past history will say that by the time we skip a meeting,
Right.
we get slammed.
So I imagine staff would need your revisions pretty quickly, right? For a September hearing.
That's correct. Within the
So
next week
maybe
or
we
so.
should be looking at October then. Because these are going to be, if there are going to be changes, it's going to be under a different standard and require a different analysis.
That would probably allow enough time for the applicant.
Is October?
If that's the only opportunity, yes, certainly.
well, it gives your architect some time to talk with staff and kind of come up with something that possibly wouldn't need another trip to us at all.
Yeah, Juan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Let's at the end of the day, let's do the October if we have to, but we may not even have to go back to the board.
Yeah, a lot of this, they've gone through the technical elements, so it wouldn't be a clean sheet of paper, but if September would, I'm just anxious, this has been, since.
Right, so the cutoff for the September hearing was actually June 11th for the preliminary and June 25th for the final application deadline, which is pretty quick. And although it may or may not have significant changes, the standard we reviewed this at would change, which would then require staff to write a whole new report.
Oh, no.
So that's the concern.
Yeah.
Right, because if this comes back to us as a lower standard of the use permit, then that's a whole new report for staff to work on. And I'm not sure that the 10-day deadline is enough for them to do that. Because then if they have to come back and talk about changes, there's not going to be time to do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Mallon?
I'm going to just move that we defer this V-12054-25-VA-1 to the October 15th, 2025 BZA hearing.
Second.
A motion for deferral to October 15th made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey?
Aye.
Mr. Kumana?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for deferral to October 15th passes 5-0.
We may or may not see you then.
You have to do the use permit also.
And we will do the use. Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Thank you
um,
very much.
Thank you.
I move that on,
Well, that case hasn't been
oh,
called.
we have to be
So we
called.
should call the case.
Okay, you're right.
Can you
We
call
call
this
that one?
permit?
Yes. Case number V-12054-25-UP-1, a use permit request by John Greco, the owner, to permit rear setback of 1.6 feet to the building wall, 1.1 feet to the building eave, instead 25 feet to the building wall, 21 feet to the building eave, as required, to permit right side setback of 3.7 feet to the building wall, 3.2 feet to the building eave, instead of 8 feet to the building wall, 5 feet to the building eave, as required, and to permit a rear setback of 17 feet to the screen porch, 16.5 feet to the screen porch eaves, instead of 21 feet to the screen porch, 19.5 feet to the screen porch eaves, regarding a one-story addition, a new screen porch to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2607 John Marshall Drive in Leeway Overley.
Thank you for the speed reading. Ms. Ryan,
Good
as
job.
the applicant left, so I assume he does not want to be heard, and we don't have any speakers signed up. Do we have any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move in case V-12054-25-UP-1 that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer this matter to the October 15, 2025 hearing.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman, motion by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman for a deferral to the October BCA hearing. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman, Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for a deferral and that use permit passes 5-0. Ms. Ryan, can you call the next case for me, please?
Yes, case number V-12055-25-UP-1, a use permit request by Torg Gerlach and Elise Zarmaski, the owners to permit a right side setback of 9.3 feet to the building wall instead of 12 feet to the building wall as required, to permit a left side setback of 10.8 feet to the building wall instead of 12 feet to the building wall as required, to permit a right side setback of 6.8 feet to the window well instead of 8 feet to the window well as required, and to permit a street setback of 24.4 feet to the building wall instead of 25 feet to the building wall as required from the 10th Street North right-of-way regarding 2 new window wells, the replacement of 60 LF of CMU wall for an existing 2-family dwelling in the R5 zoning district on the premises known as 2514 10th Street North, Lime Park. There is supplemental material for this case that includes an email of support. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this application?
Sorry.
Ms. Malice?
I'm just, so I just tried to load that case and I'm not able to load.
I'm having trouble accessing.
Okay, it just.
The county's website seems to be having issues.
All right, it just came, yeah, it's, this is something for talk
I think
about
it's
it.
working.
It's
So oh, no.
still loading.
Yeah, I think the county's the agenda website is not functional at the moment.
Could I ask a question of staff?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, so this is going to allow for window wells, but at this point, they're going to expand the basement, but that's not going to be converted to, I guess that would be something that could then easily be converted to living space, correct? The part of the basement that isn't currently dug out all the way. I guess converting a crawl space to the basement is what it says. I can ask the applicant if that's not something you have.
I know they're replacing the foundation wall portion of it, but I guess I would ask Brett or the applicant.
Yeah, I'd probably,
Okay.
yeah.
We can wait until it's your turn. Sorry. I should have asked staff, and I'll ask you when you get up here.
Yeah, Ms. McCoskey, I think it'd be helpful to get that clarified by the applicant, but I can look into that
Okay.
for the meantime.
So I have questions.
Ms. Malice, please.
So I will, is there a picture showing the wall?
The existing, just a photo of the house, or you're looking for the elevations?
The picture of the house where the, kind of where the wall actually, yeah,
Yep,
where's
gonna
the
put it
wall
up there.
actually?
So
Is it the one?
It's-
It's
I think.
it's the wall along 10th Street?
Yeah, Ms. Malice.
By wall,
Yes, the walls around, along North 10th Street North.
so it's the actual foundation wall
Yep, and rebuilding some of the brick wall above it.
and it's on a crawl space? So I saw another
I
picture that
believe
made it
so.
look like a crawl space.
It's a rebuilding of the wall, not an expansion.
No, but they're going to add egress windows, and that area in the plans is being converted from a crawl space to a and maybe we should just get the applicant to explain this to us, but it's going to be converted from a crawl space to a basement where the egress windows are and where the new CMU wall will be.
A CMU's a new term for me.
It's
Cinder blocks.
concrete masonry unit.
They're cinder
Yeah.
blocks.
Just cinder block.
But cinder blocks aren't made out of cinder
Right.
anymore.
And this is brick, and so that's why I was trying to figure out where the cinder blocks go.
The
foundation probably.
Under,
it is part of the foundation
it's
under
gonna
where
be
those
brick as a
egress
facade.
windows will be. So,
Let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I'm calling in and I apologize. And there's my wife. I'll give her the microphone first.
Just here to stand. He really
Oh.
is going to answer us.
we can't hear you.
My husband's online.
okay.
Sir, would you like to
Evening,
speak?
everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm calling in from the other side of the planet in Papua New Guinea, so I apologize for not being there in person. I do want to briefly present the scope of this project, and essentially what it is, it's driven by necessary foundation repair work on this existing property we acquired 5 years ago. It's a structure built in 1952, and it's essentially unchanged since original construction in terms of its footprint and building, if you will. We discovered since acquiring the property that it has been settling, if you will, and had recommendations to do repair work to the foundation, all of which was initially internal foundation repair work for which we had received permits from the county about a year ago. When starting the project, our construction team discovered, after removing some of the drywall in the basement, that a previous owner must have dug out some of the basement, which was not done properly. So we decided to expand the project to make sure that the foundation is really secure and meets current standards, if you will. And with that, we've also decided to replace and repair some of the existing brick veneer wall that you just saw on the front facing 10th Street, because there's visible cracking from the settlement over the last 70 years of the property. So it's essentially both securing and strengthening and reinforcing the foundation, which is internal, and then improving and renovating and replacing some of the brick to repair the cracking in the wall. We're not expanding. We're not making any additions. We're also repairing the stairs leading up to the main entrance of the building, because they also, due to the settlement, have sunk, if you will, a little bit from where they should be. And that's what it is. The question regarding the egress windows, there is an existing basement that was used by a tenant until about 2 years ago, at which time we decided to no longer rent it until we were comfortable with the repair works to the structure and the reinforcement and repair of the foundation as discussed. We've also decided to expand the scope to build those egress windows from the basement to make sure it meets the current requirements, if you will, for egress windows, and that's what that is. They are going to be built in the existing window wells, which are half above ground. Again, no expansion out to either the right or the left of the property for any of that part of the project. I do want to thank also the BZA staff, who's been incredibly responsive to our questions throughout this process. This is not something we have ever done or do for a living, if you will. It's just a property that we purchased maybe 5 years ago now, and it is in need of this foundation repair work, and that's the main driver of this project. And again, the scope expanded after the initial permit, at which time, because of the repair work to the front wall, the board reviewed it and discovered, unbeknownst to us at the time, that the front setback is within, I believe, 6 inches from the 25-inch setback. Which was the initial challenge, if you will, that brings us to this point. I think the recommendations in the staff report with the conditions presented are welcome by us, acceptable to us, and we look forward to your review, hopefully approval, because we need to secure the structure by repairing the foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan, do we have any speakers? We don't have any speakers for this, right?
No.
We don't have any speakers.
Do my colleagues have?
Oh, I should add, if I may, I'm sorry just to interrupt, but we did speak with our immediate neighbors, and we have their approval and file by email. But I I should add, in speaking to them, they were delighted to hear that we're addressing some of these matters because it will, and as you probably see from the plans, two of our neighbors are similar structures, which are quite common in Arlington. Those 2 to 3 small unit apartment buildings that were built in the early 50s. And these are in need for repair work. It'll improve the front, if you will, curb appeal, if I may, the work that we're doing just to fix it up.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have follow-up questions for this applicant? Discussion, or would someone like to try a motion? McCoskey.
I would make a motion if you can put it up. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V1205525 UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion by Ms. McCoskey, seconded by Ms. Freshman for a motion for approval as advertised. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Good luck with your project. Finally, we had
Thank you
meeting.
very much for your support.
Ms. Ryan, can you call the next case?
Yes, case number B-12056-25-UP-1, use permit request by John Hensley Architect, PLLC, on behalf of Arthur Harris, the owner, to permit a street setback of 2.5 feet to the building eve instead of 21 feet to the building eve, as required for the easement for street purposes along 18th Street South, regarding a new roof structure to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 1801 South Glebe Road in Green Valley. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. We have received supplemental material, which includes a letter of support. We received a second letter of support that was provided in advance, but unfortunately it was blank online. So we provided a physical copy in front of you. We also got an email from the applicant regarding their neighborhood outreach efforts. And we have no speakers that have signed up.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Malice.
So this is essentially going to be the same as it is as existing?
That's correct. They're just replacing the roof. They did have the addition on the right side and the screen ports that were already approved through building permit. So those aren't for BZA consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant with us?
I'm John Hensley. I'm the architect, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
John Hensley.
Okay. Of course you are.
Do my colleagues have any questions on this application?
I don't have any questions, but I just do have a comment. You know, I think somewhere you noted that you didn't think it was necessary to contact the neighbors across the street. Is that one of your people said that?
Okay. There are two streets. We did not contact the people across Glebe Road.
Right.
It's a fairly busy road and there's about
Right.
30 feet of difference. We did contact the person directly across the 18th Street
Right.
and we're not able to get any reaction from them. We even hand delivered a letter.
Yeah, just from my point of view, I'd rather the applicant didn't decide which information we needed and didn't need for the application.
Anything further, or would someone like to start us off?
Motion.
Ms. Freshman?
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the proposed resolution granting use permit B-12056-25-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman for approval as advertised, seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion? We'll call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Good luck. Yep. Can you call the next case, please?
Yes, case number V-12057-25 BA-1, a variance request by Simeon Liu on behalf of 2441 South Lincoln LLC, the owner, to permit construction of a new dwelling on a lot with substandard lot width and area for the RA 1426 zoning district regarding a new one-family dwelling in the RA 1426 zoning district on the premises known as 2441 South Lincoln Street in Green Valley. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the variance with conditions. And we have received supplemental material, which includes email from the applicant regarding neighborhood outreach efforts, a letter of support, and photos from mail drop-offs to the neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff?
I don't have questions. I would just say that normally I'm extremely inflexible on new houses with exceptions, but given the size of the lot and the width of the lot, it being so substandard, unlike the first case tonight, I think this is a reasonable request.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCoskey?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Freshman. This is a lot that almost is big enough, I think. And the width is small. And then staff, the proposed one-family dwelling will meet all the setback requirements. They're not asking for a use permit to reduce setbacks and other yard requirements, are they?
Thank you, Ms. McCoskey. I was just going to throw in that while we're doing this now, that this house does seem to be proportional with the lot size as well. And so we will hear from the applicant unless anyone else has any further. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here. This is Minglu.
Are you on the phone?
No, I see his picture.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I was just came off a trip, so a little bit under the weather. So once again, thanks for your time. And for this one, as staff mentioned, we are just a little bit under the requirement. And like mentioned earlier, we're well within the requirement for all the setbacks around the four sides.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to myself get caught up on the neighborhood outreach. Because
oh yes, yeah.
It is. So I'm a little behind because I haven't had a chance to look at a lot of the supplemental. So if my colleagues have anything further, I'm just trying to do a quick review because especially with a new build, the neighborhood outreach is really important.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have reached out to the 5 lots adjacent to this property and also the house across the street from us. We have received written support from 3 of them. And then the other 3 houses we have, as you see in the letter, the first outreach was back in March. Since then, we have made another attempt and was not able to get in contact with owners of the other 3.
And what can you point out which 3 they are?
Yes, sir. So if you look at page, page.
Just the addresses.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm sorry, the addresses, the house numbers of the 3 we don't have.
The one we don't have, that first one was 2470 South Lincoln. The second one is 2440, which is right next to our house, 2440 South Lincoln. I've spoken to the daughter of the owner and the brother of the owner, but was not able to get the hold of the owner and send us the letter back. And the third one we were not able to get a response is 2446. I spoke with the lady who owns the house the first time I was there, but just wasn't able to get a response from her after that.
And so from what you said originally, you've tried twice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Do my colleagues have anything for this applicant? I was handed a speaker slip for a Miss Williams. Is Miss Williams with us? Is Miss Williams online? We have a speaker, for the record, we have a speaker slip for a Miss Williams at 2445 South Lincoln Street.
That is the next door neighbor.
That's the next door neighbor.
She was here earlier. I believe she left though.
Did she consent? Yeah.
She did. We should have a letter. Let me see. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Jamila Williams. We have a written support from her.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
So I get,
Jamila, yeah, she's. Okay.
so I guess discussion with the board, I just would like to see more outreach from the half of the neighbors, some of the most affected neighbors, as it is a new build. I'm not sure, for me, twice is enough, but I don't know. They have, but alternatively, I'm sure placards have went up and they know it's coming.
So can you confirm that letters were sent to 2440 and 2446 and the date those letters went?
Yes, ma'am. I actually went in person.
I'm sorry, that was a question for staff.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
They're trying to,
Also sends.
because staff also sends letters from the county letting them know.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
I'll check on that.
What were those two addresses one more time, Miss Malice?
It was 2440 South Kenwood and 2446 South Kenwood. They abut. I assume all the letters would probably have gone out at the same time. 2470 is across the street. It's 2470 Lincoln.
Yeah, we did send letters to those two neighbors and they were emailed to the print shop on July 2nd.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Those neighbors were included in the letters from staff and they were sent to the print shop on July 2nd.
They were sent to the print shop on July 2nd. Do you know when the print shop would have issued those, sent those?
We don't have the exact date that they would drop it off in the
What's
mailbox.
typical? I mean,
I've been waiting 2 weeks for something from DMV, so.
so do you get a copy with like a date on it when they go out, or is the date July 2nd when you send it out? I'm kind of asking because I think one of the commenters on a different case said that they didn't receive a letter, but 2 days before the hearing.
Yeah, I don't have an exact date from the print shop. That would be something I have to reach out to see when they dropped in the mail.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would be inclined to support this simply because they're really not asking for any relief other than
The ability to build.
the ability to build on a slightly substandard lot.
Would you like to make that motion?
I will.
You got it, go ahead.
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the variance V-12057-25-VA1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice for approval as advertised. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes no. I'm only voting no as a protest for the outreach, but I do support the underlying request. So motion passes 4-1. Good luck with your
Thank
build.
you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Ryan, can you call the next case, please?
Yes, case number V-12058-25-UP-1, a use permit request by Samuel Benson and Ashley Robinson, the owners, to permit a right side setback of 5.2 feet to the building wall, 4.7 feet to the building eave instead of 10 feet to the building wall, 6 feet to the building eave as required regarding a one-story right side addition to a semi-detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 818 South Irving Street in Arlington Heights. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff?
I just have a question. I'm looking at the plat. There's a right side addition, correct?
That's correct. That's what the subject request is for.
I don't see it.
Zoom in. It's in some
Are
faded.
just those little teeny scratchy marks?
Yeah, look at page 14. There's a rendering of it.
Okay, I don't have that.
This.
Okay.
It's a very small.
It is those little scratchy marks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just saying I'm more accustomed to something that's really obvious or even highlighted or something. Okay.
Ms. McCuskey.
Okay, so yes, my question is page 14, I think you just referred to it. I was looking at page 13,
Yes.
which has little scratchy marks, but
Yes.
page 14 is this photo. Is that picture the proposed addition?
That's my understanding.
Or is that the existing stoop that's there? There's something there now, correct?
Do you have pictures in your presentation?
See, there's when I look at page 12, there's a step, but that's not that little, because I guess that is maybe 9 feet if it's a 36-inch door and 36 and 36 on it. So maybe that picture does show it. That was, I thought
Right,
that was
go back.
maybe the
Can you
existing
go back?
step.
Go back one, two, one more. Is that the door? Is this going where that door is? Maybe the applicant can point us in the right direction.
Okay.
Let's leave that one up for a minute. Is the applicant with us?
I am, yeah.
Can you see what we're looking at on the screen with the
I
picture of
can.
this side? Is that the side where this addition is going?
Yes, and it is a very modest one. So those tiny scratch marks are the proposed addition right there, yeah.
Is this going where the door is or
Yes.
on? Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a very modest structure where that door is currently. I think
Yes.
does that help everyone? It's a thing. Would you like to speak to your application?
Yeah, sure thing. So this is, again, a modest proposal. We're hoping for some stroller storage here and a little bit of a coat closet on this main floor. And that's it. We were able to, there were 2 neighbors that we weren't able to do outreach for the first bit, but we've gotten signatures from both of those if that affects anything, and I can submit the signature sheet that we got from those neighbors. But I welcome any other questions. It's modeled after something else essentially exactly like this in the neighborhood that we saw and thought would
be great.
Change the functionality of our first floor.
Can you send that sheet that you referenced to staff at some point, regardless of the outcome for tonight?
Absolutely. I'll send it over.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Smalis, do you?
I guess question for
Question.
staff. I'm trying to read the numbers on that plat.
For the setbacks to the addition?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the advertisement language, 5.2 feet to the wall.
I'm actually trying to read it on the plat.
Does it match the plat?
I can't, I'm looking to see if those numbers are the same, and I'm having trouble.
Yes, those numbers match the plat, the language from the advertisement language.
So that says 4.7 there.
Yep, for the building eve.
But okay.
Anything further? Would someone like to try something out? Ms. Malice, did you have a concern there, or did you?
We have numbers in the motion, I guess, and
Well, I do.
Stipulating that that's those same numbers on this drawing.
I see a nod from the applicant.
And I think we ought to clarify that, because we do have a situation where frequently the numbers that are listed in the initial paragraph are not what is shown on drawings, because applicants are asking for room for
Construction errors.
And I kind of object to the fact that they asked for that. And so I appreciate that we limit the the applicant to what's shown on the drawings. And that to me is our definitive determination of what we've approved. So it does seem as though we should make sure that we get this drawing clear enough. And I was going to mention this at the end of our meeting, but I was going to suggest that at some point, maybe we think about adding language to the beginning of the paragraph that says you're bound by the drawings, that says irrespective of the request by the applicant, you're bound by the drawings. But in this case, that wouldn't even help because the drawings are not perfectly clear. So maybe what we ought to do is reference what the numbers are supposed to be here so that everyone knows what the numbers are supposed to be on the drawings, which are the definitive determination of what we've done.
Yeah, I've zoomed at 250% and I still can't make it out. So yes, we could make a motion that just calls out what the numbers are on the drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate to delay this applicant for
Right.
on if this were a much larger project and we had this problem on 20 measurements, that might be a different story. Who would like to craft such a call out?
Can you put the motion up and I'll do it? I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-12058-25-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed. And going back to the plat.
Are the numbers in the first whereas correct?
Yes, they are.
So then you don't have to
But-
embellish it.
No, but what Ms. McCroskey's saying is that the drawings should be the definitive, and so we should say that in the.
Maybe in the whereas that says they're bound by the drawings.
Isn't there one that refers to the drawings?
Britt, can you move, or can you
about-
go one over with the conditions?
So,
Okay.
so maybe we should just add to
And then-
paragraph 1 a reference to in accordance with the proposed footprint shown on the survey, comma, which includes those numbers set forth in the first whereas paragraph above.
I accept that as part of my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Ms. Miss Malice, Miss Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman for approval as advertised with the addition to the reference to the drawings and sizes. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Enjoy your stroller storage. Ms. Ryan, I believe we have the next case.
Case number V-12059-25-UP-1, a use permit request by Brush Arbor Home Construction LLC, Melody Gates, on behalf of Curtis and Samantha Orphy, the owners, to permit right side setback of 5 feet to the building wall, 4 feet to the building eaves, and 1.34 feet to the to the window wells, instead of 10 feet to the building wall, 6 feet to the building eaves and window wells, as required, to permit a right side setback of 5 feet to the chimney instead of 8.5 feet to the chimney, as required, to permit a left side setback of 9.67 feet to the building wall, 5 feet to the stoop and areaway instead of 10 feet to the building wall, 6 feet to the stoop and areaway, as required, and to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 14.67 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a new one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3174 20th Street North in Line Village. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. An alternative motion has been provided should the BZA see fit to defer the use permit request to a later meeting for staff to advertise an associated variance request. Note supplemental material for this case has come in after the application. That includes revised plan set and emails, as well as additional support from applicants or support recitals from applicants. And we have three BZA comment forms that were received, and we have one additional speaker that has signed up to speak on this item.
Miss Ryan. Miss Ryan, I've seen, and now you have stated that you have received plan changes to this case. Has county staff reviewed them and made any updates to their recommendation?
I haven't fully reviewed it. I have looked at it, and it would be similar request to what they're currently requesting. They would still need right side, left side, and total aggregate, as well as a variance for both main building footprint and lot coverage.
But it's not the same
It's
as
not
what we've got.
It's not the exact same setbacks as listed on the plat, but it has similar setbacks.
And so does staff feel that their current report stands, or would they want to redo their analysis?
Does it change your recommendation?
Well, or not, I mean, they might not know.
I think for it needing right side, left side, total aggregate, and a variance for main building footprint, lot coverage relief for a brand new house, I couldn't find compatibility in the neighborhood. The only thing I could find was one new house that I had listed in my examples, and that was a very unique lot that was very undersized in lot width and lot area.
Can you summarize the changes from the two plans?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm a little
Ms. Miles.
uncomfortable with trying to summarize on the fly what these changes are.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't,
I just,
is there a reason we're not just going to defer this to have a
That's-
proper application before
That
us
would
and
be
they
my
can address
preference.
it?
Yeah.
To me,
Absolutely.
that
I
there's,
just don't know what right, if the change is, 2 inches for something, that's one thing, but if it's major change, I just don't know what the changes are.
but
But it
part of the
doesn't
change
matter.
is that a
Is-
variance has to be obtained,
Right,
whatever they do, for what's
Right, that's right.
before us today.
Right.
And so if they want to change that, that's one thing. But I think that until we have the variance before us, there's no point in considering the setbacks that aren't in compliance because they need a variance.
I was
Right.
just trying to get to whether we could hear the variance today or not, and without knowing the changes, I didn't know that.
Well, it
but-
hasn't been advertised.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, it hasn't
Not
been
a
advertised.
variance.
Thank you.
It's not a variance.
Oh, no, I am so sorry. I forgot, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was
We
that?
can't act on it because this is the case where the variance has not been advertised yet. So not only has the plan changed, but
Right.
we don't have a variant advertisement.
Yeah, could we, so that was what
I
gonna be one of my
apologize. That's my fault.
questions is
Right.
that subsequent to advertising, staff realized that a variance was required.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We initially thought the
Okay.
covered porch counted as.
So
a-
this is definitely at least a
And,
deferral.
and the plan has also changed. So we
And-
can't hear it. Anyway, I am so sorry that I went down that path. I was a step too late.
Okay.
Would-
Is there a reason not to start over?
So we weren't asking for a variance.
you- the plan that is
Okay,
before
wait,
us and even the
Mr.
altered
Chair.
plan requires a variance.
So are you going to give the application opportunity to make his case
Yeah.
before we?
Have to, yeah. Yeah.
Before we decide what
No,
we're going to do?
I think we have to hear from the applicant, and if the speaker wants to speak as
Right.
well, we can't skip, I don't think we can skip that.
Okay. thank
Is this the applicant?
Yes.
There you. Do you have one for staff?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Should I?
Okay, this is, we had this was
This was
supplemental.
in the supplemental.
This is part of the
Right.
supplemental. Yeah, just so you have a copy of it.
Yep, no, we all get that supplemental.
Oh, okay,
We have it.
great. So just
But this
ask
is-
us to bring a copy.
Doesn't
of it.
hurt.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll get started and we'll be brief.
Please.
My name is Curtis Ofori. I'm here with my wife Samantha. We are the owners at 3174 20th Street North. We have been members of Arlington off and on for 20 years. And so part of the supplemental, okay, part of the supplemental.
You can raise up the
Oh,
podium.
thank you.
There you go.
There you go. And then you can get
I
close
think,
to
I think
it.
it's about as high as it goes.
Can you lean in or speak a little closer?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Part of the supplemental actually begins where the project starts. And so I want to start with three numbers, 64, 45, and 3.3. And so the reason that's important is the actual lot is 64 feet wide. And so we went to the courthouse and the records and actually learned the actual lot is 64 feet by 118. And the reason that's important is our current home is 45 feet wide, right? Our new home will be 45 feet wide. But we learned in pulling out the original lot that 4 feet sometime between 1939 and 1963, I think, was sometime vanished or lost. And the reason that's important is because those 4 feet are what we need for our use permit setback. So we are focused on a use permit, not a variance. Okay, so what's important there is we have our 64 feet. The plot is, our current house is 45 feet wide. Our new house will be 45 feet wide. So those are 3 major points we want to bring up. Importantly, this board has previously issued a use permit for our air conditioner, which is 2.2 feet into the setback. In addition, the BZA has also previously approved a use permit that gets into the setback. So it brings us to the third number, which is 3.3. That is actually what we're asking for relative to the lot on the right side of our home. So we had the original lot, which you have here in the supplementals, which is 64 feet wide. Sometime between 1939 and 1963, 4 feet magically vanished. In addition to that, you have our current lot. We were really focused on use permit on those 3.5 feet, or 3.3 feet. And that our new property will be the exact same width as our old property. And so in point that we brought up to the staff, we corrected the 1.83 feet that was covered ports that our builder did not previously know. We corrected that. So we are not asking for a variance. We're asking for a use permit that you mentioned. That's very important. We've also done incredible neighborhood outreach. We had letters out to our neighbors. We sat down with them. We've explained to them our project. We've also sent emails to confirm that and also laid down with them previous letters that they could sign at their request and approval. So I mentioned before, there's precedent that our air condition was 2.2 feet into the setback. There's also a previous use permit that was permitted on the lot that the BZA has previously allowed. So those are the major points. And I want to leave some time. Wife wants to bring up something that's important as well.
Hello, good evening. Just the mic a little bit. So as you'll also notice in our supplemental materials, during this important time in our lives and our family, with our 3 children, with our extended family, we did some research and we actually discovered that that there's a clause in the original deed of our land. So the original homeowners actually built in a clause where in number 7, it states that prior to September 1st, 2022, no land in this subdivision shall be sold or leased to any person not of the Caucasian race. That's very important to us. Very important to my family, very important to me, my husband, my children, and anyone that enters our home. So that means that it's important that every brick in this house was built by someone that signed that deed and believed in that clause. And that is something that affected me deeply. And therefore, we have to start over. We have to take every brick of that house down. I tuck my kids into those rooms, they walk the halls, and this is built by someone that didn't think that we should be there. So we could build it by right. We could keep up the walls and save the hubbub over 3.3 feet. But because of this, we want to take our structure down.
And so we appreciate how communicative the staff has been, how they're able to sort of fix the unforced error, 1.83 feet over the overhang. We corrected that and sent it back. We understand the higher standard for a variance. We're asking for a use permit. We've also, taken neighborhood outreach. So we'll stop there if there are any other questions.
Thank you. I just have a question for staff.
I have questions for staff.
We probably have the same question as my we'll see.
Go ahead.
So in the supplemental I read, I think I read that somewhere that even with the proposed changes, that this still needed a variance.
Based on the plans I looked at that was submitted Monday and Tuesday afternoon, I'm still seeing that they're going to need a variance because they're building the 3rd floor above the 60-foot porch. So any floor area above that minimum 60 square foot porch would then trigger a variance because they'd be over the 40% lot coverage. And the 33 or 30% main building flow.
So, and so I'll ask my colleagues if they have any additional questions, but, you know, seeing as how even under a revised plan, this needs a variance, it would still have to be advertised regardless. And so I think we should hear from,
I still have questions.
you still have questions.
Yeah, I just, before, if the plan comes back.
Yep. Okay. So Ms. Malice.
The pool has no bearing in this case.
The pool, if it's in ground, which the applicant said it was, it would count towards lot cover, total lot coverage.
Counts towards lot coverage. Okay.
And it's within the, I'm not familiar with
If
this.
it was going to be an above ground pool, then it would need to meet the regular like main dwelling setback. So like 25 feet from the rear, 10 feet and 8 feet from the sides, but it wouldn't count towards lot coverage.
Okay. Also, in one of the comment forms we received, the, I guess it was a neighbor, discussed a power line that goes over the pool and indicated that there actually was an easement for that power line. Do you have any information on whether, and if this is coming back, you don't have to answer this, but this would be something that we would want to know, is if there's an easement that should be shown on the survey.
Yeah, I didn't see it on the survey when I was doing my report.
Okay, we can ask if that commenter is here, we can ask about that. There was also a comment that neighbors did not receive their letter or see a placard, but a couple of days before the hearing. Do you have any information about that?
I know our zoning enforcement team was helping us out with posting. I would have to look into see when they
Okay.
posted that exactly.
You know, if and when this comes back to us, I think neighborhood notification is going to be really important.
Ms. McCoskey.
Yeah, I feel like I've lost a little bit of track here. My apologies, but
Probably my fault.
the no, the house is being built in the same location as it exists today.
Yes, ma'am.
However, and I think, Meg, this is what you said, there is a place where there's an expansion above a porch that is causing the, causing it to exceed the coverage.
Yes, so because of the,
We fixed
if you can see on the current screen with the plans that I reviewed while doing my staff report, I caught the second floor was extending beyond that 60 square foot minimum porch. So that makes it less than 60 square feet. Therefore, they don't get the porch bonus.
Oh,
So then
so when they lose that bonus, then the same building is over coverage.
Correct. So then they'd have to adhere to the 30% main
But
building.
that's what we've attempted to fix in terms of it really just making it flat. It's a,
Right.
We do have our.
we do have a representative there and they can speak to, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's not something we would approve tonight because we don't have plans before us and it would change the advertisement.
Well, no, those are the plans that are before us.
No, I know,
The
but-
question is whether.
But we haven't had a full analysis from staff and we just got the revised plans a couple hours ago.
yeah, we said
Not
those.
revised plans. I
There are
don't think.
revised plans now.
No, but
No, but you're referring to the plans that were in our packet.
Right,
all the plans before us today need a variance, which was not advertised.
right. And they need a variance
And if
because
they-
of this discrepancy that staff discovered
And if-
afterwards, right?
If they want to proceed
You-
on just the use permit tonight, that would require different plans that we don't have before us.
You do have,
Well-
plans though, right?
The revised plans that were submitted on Monday and Tuesday show the third floor over the 60 square foot porch. Therefore, it's not a 60 square foot porch. So
Right.
either the
Right.
plans I reviewed for the staff report or the
We
revised.
can't go, we
plans.
can't proceed.
Well, we could, but we would deny those use permits because
Correct.
they create the situation where
Right.
the variance would be required.
That's
That's
true.
the problem.
We
I
could
gotcha.
deny
And
based
so-
on
Right.
lack of variance.
So
I,
it seems to me the right way to address this is to defer it so that we can have either some slight modification, or we would have a variance application that went with this.
Right,
And it
and that-
might be very minor and be essentially the same, because I understand that's what you tried to not make it more intrusive, and that's a good thing, but we would still need to have that before us so that we can consider the use permits that are here.
We understand. We hear you.
Okay.
We hear you. So
Yeah.
we will go back to our original plan. We respect not only the history, but what Arlington's trying to do, what you as a board are trying to do. We're not asking for a variance.
Yeah.
We're not asking for a variance. We're asking for the use permit for 3.3 feet. So we will correct that on the third floor. If you, I guess, would it make sense, I guess, to continue this to, well, I'm not going to speak for you.
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking, so again, I go back to staff, for a deferral, what are we looking at?
Well, and I think it might be relevant, though. I think what the applicant is saying is that they would prefer to come back with a request for a simple use permit that eliminates the need to have a variance.
Right.
And so that deferral should be considered as though we just need a use permit.
Correct. But it still, but may require changes that need staff analysis.
Right.
Right.
And new drawings.
And so then my next question, and we will hear from the speaker. I have not forgotten.
Let's hear from the speaker and before we make
Yeah.
a motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, I was just, now I lost, right, so then my question for staff is, our next hearing is in September. Given that deadline is passing shortly, is that enough time, do you think, for this application? And you don't have to answer now, we can hear from the speaker.
Okay.
Ms. Doherty.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am the left side adjacent neighbor to the applicants, the O'Fourys.
Could you state your address?
I'm about to. Their address is 3174. My address is 3170, and that is lot 753. I've lived in that house for almost 45 years, and I speak in support not of a deferral, but as recommended by staff, of a denial of the only records that have been filed in a timely manner in terms of what any of the adjacent owners saw. I am extremely concerned now because the two bases upon which I object are specific bases with respect to the size of the house and the side-to-side request for 14.7 feet instead of 18 feet, with numerous encroachments that I recognize are allowed, but when you expand that area, or rather reduce that area, so that those encroachments then are right on top of us, and on top of me, in one case, on top of the other side owner. But secondly, and this is much more important, and this is something that I hope the board will seriously address across the board. Applicants have not acted in good faith. I love these people. They're my neighbors, and if you ever want model children, they have them. And my comments are directed specifically to this project. They haven't acted in good faith because they, oh Lord, I got completely sidetracked by this. Anyway, what happened today. I would like to, but what I'm concerned about is failure. They had to give their adjacent neighbors timely and appropriate notice. None of the neighbors except one knew what the plans were or anything else. Repeatedly since March, when I was first told and shown very quickly an initial plan and told, oh, these aren't final. For 3 months, I've been asking when the plans would be final so that I could see them. And every time, including after the plans had been filed, I was not shown the plans and I was told they weren't ready. Similarly, with other adjacent neighbors, the first we became aware of the filing was, thanks to staff or whatever the appropriate organ is for sending out the public notice. I don't think any of us have any objection to the public notice, and indeed, the yellow placard was properly placed and signs were placed on posts. The problem is that the notice was dated June 30th, and I didn't get it until Saturday after the 4th of July. I believe another neighbor got it on possibly as late as the 10th. But specifically with respect to the Euphories, the board, the BZA has done an amazing job in their materials on the website, specifically with respect to this submission requirements for neighborhood outreach. And the fact that there's even a letter addressed specifically to applicants saying notice to applicants regarding neighbor outreach. The Euphories did not comply with any of that. And it is disingenuous as they talk about everybody had a chance to discuss everything. We never got to see the plans, the final plans. The first time I knew anything about anything, as I said, was in March. But never was I told there were final plans. Never was I told there was anything filed, as is the case with other, in terms of letters in support. None of the 4 adjacent neighbors wrote letters in support. And so I just urge,
Thank you.
Can I just say this?
Quickly.
I simply urge that whatever decision the board makes tonight, that it have a qualifier in it that would help us avoid all this problem in the future. If we could honestly talk to our neighbors, we could probably resolve anything or try to resolve it, but we didn't even have anything to discuss. So please
Thank you.
ask them to follow your guidelines. Thank you.
I suspect there'll be another 2 to 3 month period in which that time will be given. Do my colleagues have questions for the speaker, Ms. Doherty? So Ms. Ryan, I'm sensing that October might be the better option here because it seems like there's some significant neighbor outreach that needs to be done, and plan diagrams aren't even available yet.
Yeah, I think if they're
And also
trying-
from staff's workload, I know that staff is very shorthanded at the moment as well.
Yeah, I think to allow the applicants time to revise their plans, especially if they don't want to pursue a variance, I think they'll need changes to the ones that they recently submitted in the last couple of days.
Thank you.
Do you mind if we comment just briefly? We want to be respectful of.
I mean, I think we're going for I suspect you're headed for a deferral, and so I'm not sure that there's much more to add to that.
Well, I think
Go ahead, sir.
I think I mainly want to respond to the lack of good faith. We are actually licensed. My husband is a CPA. I am a lawyer. So I think the lack of good faith comment is actually disingenuous and not appropriate.
I'm sorry.
Appropriate.
I'm sorry. We're not going to address.
Yeah.
You can
Mr.
address the
Chairman.
board only. Ms. Malice.
It just seems you need to do a little work
More
with your
neighbor
neighbors and let's try to keep the recriminations to a minimum because that will make it easier for you to talk through any issues.
Yeah, no, we absolutely respect that. And like I said before, we try and raise really good children and try and model that. What we're actually asking is because you got the August and the September, it sounds like the one thing we had to change is the 3rd floor. We think the change is minor since we're just asking for a use permit and the standard is lower. So
Well,
really just think about time.
I'm
Yeah.
going to stick to October.
Staff has other applications already on the agenda for September.
You said 5, right?
And they have to, and they're also short-staffed. And it also does seem that you have some outreach to do with a bunch of neighbors who are in opposition as well. So I think October is probably the thing to do. I just wanted to also, as this is going to come back before us, my personal feeling, and again, I don't have the use permit plan before us because it's going to be deferred and it's going to be a new plan. But, I generally look at new builds much more closely in terms of what applicants are asking for, because being a new build, the applicant has the opportunity to start from scratch and meet the zoning requirements because they do change over time. And as the county board changes the zoning requirements, the idea is that properties come into conformance with the new zoning ordinance at that time. And so, I just wanted to give you my thoughts as you're working through a new plan.
And just one question, as I sort of understand your thinking on that, do you give any weight to the fact that the property actually started at 64 feet wide? No,
We can't really
I,
address that.
I mean, that's an issue that has to come before us, but, my gut tells me that, this property, you're not the owner of the property in 1964 and you bought the property, you come to the property as it is now and don't get to the opportunity to take the benefit of what disappeared from it, 70 years ago.
Okay. And then just again.
But again, I'm one of five.
No, I appreciate that. I'm trying to really understand kind of the process.
Yeah,
And I won't wrap up. I want to be mindful of folks behind us, just so I understand the sort of precedent, right? 2.2 feet for the AC.
Yeah, and so I think,
Mr. Chairman.
I think that we, I don't think going back and forth is going to be helpful.
Got it.
I think that, I
Mr.
just
Chair.
wanted to give that advice on the record.
I'd just like to make
back before us.
make the point. I'm also someone who's very sensitive to new build. And it may be that you want to build the exact same house, but the exact same house may not conform to today's requirements. The fact that there might have been an exception made some other time is not relevant in the sense that what you need the time to do now is to redesign your plans in a way that minimizes, preferably doesn't require any hearing at all. And you can just pull your permits and be done with it.
Yep.
If you have to have some exceptions, you come back here in October when the staff has plenty of time. You've had time to do your plans. They've had time to review it. And in a worst case scenario, you would need a variance as well. I would suggest that you avoid that at all costs.
Okay.
So you need that time to get your act together with today's requirements, regardless of what is there now. And then we'll see you in October.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Malice,
Make a motion.
would you like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer use permit V-12059-25-UP-1 to the October 15, 2025 hearing.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. McCoskey for deferral until October. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman, Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for deferral till October passes 5-0. And can you please call the last use permit for
Mr.
tonight?
Chair, could we do a bio break?
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break unless there's any objection to that. And then we will go into the next use permit and appeal. So this will be our only break. Ms. Malice, are you ready? Okay. Ms. Ryan, can you please call the last non-appeal case for us?
Yes, case number V-12060-24-UP1, a use permit request by Arash Rezi, the owner, to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 22.7 feet instead of 24 feet as required regarding a two-story rear addition to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 3878 North Tazewell Street in Stafford, Albemarle, Glebe. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this application? No. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, sir.
Harry, would you like to speak to your application?
I'm going to have my representative, who is the builder. She can answer any questions. The only thing that I would say is I bought this property in 2005. I have had multiple problems with the addition that was put on this property. Many leaks, thousands of dollars in repairs. I've had mold remediation multiple times, and they just cannot fix the leaks because it's settling and pulling away from the original structure, and hence the start of this project. I have reached out to all my neighbors, but I'm going to pass this along to my builder, and she can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Vanessa Nunez. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we can't see you. I don't know if you want to be seen.
I turned my camera on, but I don't know what's going on with it.
You have a cover on it?
No, I don't.
Okay, then let's continue.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so just to recap of what Mr. Rezai was saying is that what we're trying to do right now is that this addition that he currently has a lot of structural problems. There's footing problems that made the addition sink about 5 to 6 inches, which is pretty much detaching from the original house. And this has caused a lot of cracks throughout the addition, a lot of water issues, mold issues. He's done a lot of repairs to it. He reinforced the columns, we repaired the cracks. He also did mold remediation treatments and reinforced waterproof membranes, and nothing is helping. So what he wants to do now is just completely remove the existing addition and want to rebuild the addition with some changes. As you see in the picture right now, what we have on the back is a deck on the second level with an open landing at the bottom. So what we want to do is enclose that opening on the bottom and turn it into a livable space. Also, the existing deck insets about 66 inches from the right outside wall of the original house. So we want to use that inset and expand the back of the addition to the edge of the original wall. So doing all these changes, what it makes the side back changes from 24, which is required by R10 zoning, to 22.7 feet. So what we want right now is your approval for that setback.
Thank you.
One last thing, I apologize. The addition that was put on the house is was at the time a very modern addition. I'm actually going to, if you permit it, I would like to rebuild the house with a style that's more matching the front of the house and looks like the other houses in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for the applicant? Ms. Malice?
So I guess the question is, why couldn't it be built to the required setback?
It can be, first of all, when they built the addition, they actually requested the setback that we're currently asking for. It was approved, but they didn't build it. I don't know why it wasn't done then. I'm asking for it now so that there is a linear wall on that side from the front of the house to the back of the house, so that everything is uniform and that the house can be built as a rectangle rather than having a setback when you get halfway down to that side of the house.
Because you prefer it that way because,
Aesthetically, it would make the house, more uniform if it's built that way. It really doesn't affect any of my neighbors, and the neighbor that it directly affects, she has not only signed off, but she is all for it, because the current structure is kind of an eyesore in comparison to what the house will look like once it's finished.
and I guess the next question would be, so you did get setback relief, or the property got setback relief earlier, but you couldn't build to that original setback?
I believe that was done before I bought the house.
Right. But you couldn't match it with this addition?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. What we're asking for is roughly 1.5 feet, basically, so that the house would be uniform.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Miss Freshman.
I noticed that you had several neighbors of support, but I didn't see one from the neighbor behind you or the one directly on the left as we face your house. 3874.
The people directly behind me, I reached out to them. They never responded to me. He is a attorney. But I don't know why he didn't reach out. We are very friendly, but he never said anything. The people to the left, the gentleman passed away from cancer a while back, and I have asked that his wife currently owns the house. They are sometimes not here. They are in California. They have a daughter there, but we have asked. I have reached out. The signs have been there. I don't know how else to get anything from them. I'm not in contact with them.
How many times have you gone by the house and knocked on the door?
I at least 5 or 6 times over the last few months. I've gone next door. I most of the time sometimes get their daughter who visits from California and takes care of the house.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Discussion? Motion?
Can you bring up the motion?
Here, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit V1206024 UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
A motion by Ms. McCoskey for approval as advertised, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Thanks.
Last up, we have an appeal. Could you call the appeal?
Yes, case number V12061-25-APP-1, appeal by Abigail Wilson and Justin Wilson, neighbors of the zoning administrator's approval of building permit RNU 24-05785 for the property located at 5113 33rd Street North, Leeway, Overly. Staff recommends that the BZA find that the appeal was not submitted within the time frame set forth in Virginia Code Section 15.2-2311, and that the building permit RNU 24-05785 is final and unappealable. We have received supplemental material, which includes a letter from the neighbor and clarification letter from the appellant, as well as some emails that the appellant had attached. And then we have one additional speaker that has signed up.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Who do we have representing the appellant?
Me, I'm Abigail Wilson.
In the county?
I'm sorry,
Is there anybody representing the county?
that was my next question. Do we have anyone here representing the county?
I'll be presenting on the county.
You will be presenting for the
Yeah.
county. That was my confusion. I didn't recognize anyone from the county. Okay, so typically, we will hear from, well, not typically, we hear from the county first, and then we will hear from the appellant. So the county gets to make their. I am unaware. That is,
That was something that we needed to do in
That-
advance.
staff can help answer that question, or they could make that happen.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just sit here and listen to the county.
Yes, yeah, so the county will go first, and then the county and or the builder will go, and then, or whoever they cede their time to, and then we'll come to you next. Thank you.
Brett, could you go back a few slides for me, please?
Before you start, I just want to, for everyone's benefit, that when this appeal was filed, if one of the parties has an issue that we should address before hearing the merits of the case, like timeliness, we'll often hear that without hearing the merits of the case. So the only thing that is before us, this board tonight, is whether this appeal was timely filed. If we find that it was timely filed, then staff would re-advertise the case for a merit hearings, a hearing on the merits. If we find that is not timely, then that would be the end of it unless or until an appeals court tells otherwise. Okay, please.
So staff, the building permit issued was, has on the building permit itself has the issuance date of March 18th, 2025. In staff records, while we did our research, we found that March 20th was kind of the last date that was listed in that building permit as approval. And so that's why we listed the March 20th for the building permit in the proposed resolution. The application itself was received on April 26th. So from the later date of the March 20th for the building permit and then the submittal of this BZA appeal on April 26th, we believe it is more than 30 days. And then any additional time, I guess I would give to the owners of the property if they want to add anything.
Are the owners of the property with us? Would you like to add anything? If you would have to. Typically, this is your time to speak. Can you start the timer?
Good evening. My name is Mark Hosmer. My wife and I own the property at 5113 33rd Street North. First, wanted to thank the board, thank the staff for the report that they wrote. I urge the board to adopt the staff's recommendation to deny the appeal as untimely under Virginia code. You're going to hear, and I'm sure you read in the documents that were submitted, what I view as character assaults on my character, my builder. At no time was Miss Wilson misled. The materials that I submitted to the board already show the text messages. Everything we told her was a correct explanation of how the zoning ordinance applies the setback in the aggregate 24 feet. We assured her that we were in compliance with the zoning ordinance and that we had never asked for a variance and we were never granted a variance. We didn't ask for I forget what the UP stands for, but it's a conforming plan. So we submitted our conforming plan and we're trying to build our home. And so I really just want to state for the record, we've followed the rules. We've done what we're supposed to do. You know, you can go back and look at the zoning ordinance from 1950, has the exact same setbacks. So we didn't change anything. It's not because we're building a new house and somebody made an exception for us. I've lived in this county for almost 30 years with a couple times where I was away overseas in the Marine Corps. I raised my family here. I have 3 kids that all went to elementary school. They went to Williamsburg Middle School. They all graduated from Yorktown High School. So what you're going to hear, I just hope you keep that in mind. We followed the rules, and all I would like to do is get a normal night's sleep, stop paying an attorney to have to fight to get a building permit to build my house that is following the rules. So that's all I have unless you have questions.
Thank you. I think we'll hear from all the parties, and if we have questions, we can call you back up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have your name in front of Ms. Wilson, please. We're on a different slide now, so I'm sorry.
Able to get slides up.
Mr. Goldberg, are they able to connect up?
Typically ask for PowerPoints in advance. I can take a look up there to see if I can find, if you're able to send it by email, we can do that as well and pull it up from our end.
Do you want me to just email it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a internet connection? Sorry. I can just do it on this. What should I email it to?
I can send it to my email. It's bgoldberg@arlingtonva.us.
Should I just?
I would just start.
Okay.
Is it?
I think there's a work. Did you send it up?
I did.
Okay.
I could just start, or if you have do you have the slides that were in part of the appeal?
Potentially.
You could just pull up the chart one.
Are the slides the same that were in the supplemental material or in the application package? Because we've all seen them.
Yeah, well, they're mostly. Do you want to, are you able to follow along with that? Do you have it in front of you? If I just
I think
start?
most of us do. I don't know if all of us do.
Okay, okay. Okay. My name is Abigail Wilson, and this is Justin Wilson. We own the property at 5109 33rd Street, which is adjacent to the house that Mark Hosmer and Christina O'Donnell are having the new build on. I want to start with just some of the objectives. We want to just establish the facts and the timeline. And then we also want to explain that the builder in this project, Scott Scheffler, intentionally misled me during the 30-day appeal window. On March 5th, we received a letter from Cottage Street Custom Homes, the company, and the letter established themselves as the contact for the project. They said, please let us know if you have any questions. And I did have a question. I was concerned about the setback to our property because I knew it was going to be a bigger house than what was there before. And I sent him a text message. I went to the zoning ordinance website and pulled up a screenshot of the diagram from the zoning ordinance. And on that, I labeled, to make it clear which direction I was orienting, I labeled 33rd Street, I labeled our house, and I circled the 16-foot setback. And he answered, yes, our plan has met that approval. And to me, then I took that as, okay, well, I made it obvious. I labeled my house, I labeled 33rd Street, and he answered yes. He didn't answer, oh, your side is actually going to be 8 feet, or we did the reverse of what the picture shows, or even no, but our plan still met Arlington approval. Or he could have even answered, why don't you go ask Arlington? But he didn't. And so at that point, I thought, okay, well, the setback's going to be 16 feet. Also, if you look at the picture on Cottage Street Homes, they show a tree planted very, it looks like it's at least 10 to 15 feet away from the house. And I have that on my slide too. And that just adds to the deception that there's going to be space. Obviously, that tree isn't going to be planted in my concrete driveway. So if you go, if you have in front of you the timeline, the letter that we received was March 5th. The building permit date, at least what's listed on their building permit on their property, is March 18th. And the text message that I sent the builder was on April 10th. And therefore, I did not appeal. The end of the 30-day appeal period would have been either April 17th or April 19th, depending on what date of the building permit. And it wasn't until April 18th that they started digging, and they dug 2 feet from the property line. And that's when I texted the builder and said, why are you digging so close to my property line? And then he said, oh, we have to overdig, but the setback's 8 feet. And then I filed a complaint because then I was confused. Are they not digging to what they applied for? And at that point, I entered the complaint. And an inspector from the county came out April 23rd and looked at it. And she said, well, unfortunately, the only thing I can do here is measure to see if they're actually digging to what they applied for. But there's nothing more that I can do. And also, I forgot to add too that on April 18th, I texted Chrissy, the owner, and said, can we talk about this? The setback is too close to my house. And she said, oh, well, I'm in Italy, but I'll send my husband, Mark, over to talk to you about it. And he never came over. So I attempted to discuss this with the owners, and they were unwilling to have this discussion with me. They didn't come over. They didn't talk about it. And so I really, at that point, I felt like I had little choice, but then to involve the county. And then when I realized that they had applied for the 8-foot setback on my side, I filed an appeal. And I noticed too that in Mark's documents, he said that it was the neighbors should have been asking for our plans. But because, as he said, he didn't apply for a variance, neighbors wouldn't have been notified, and none of us would have expected that this would be a reversal, because all of the other new builds have consistently used 16 feet on the right side as you're looking at the houses from the street, and 8 feet on the left. And so they changed that, making 32 feet between the downside house and really only 16 feet to my house, because they have wings that contain tanks and air conditioners and everything, but in their foundation. But it really is only about 16 feet to my house then. And it's, you know, it's a really large house. We're looking at a 35-foot house, and our kids' bedrooms are right above the garage on that side, and it's dark, and it's also just their privacy is affected. So, and it, you know, there's 11 letters from neighbors too that have come in upset about this too, that they feel that they would like to be heard, and it affects this setback change affects everyone on the street, because if I were then, if we decided let's rebuild this house, we would choose the 16-foot setback on that side, because they've already reduced the setbacks to 5 feet on their side. And every then house downstream would want to do the same, so they have sufficient spacing, but there's not enough space on the street. There's only if everyone moved down 8 feet, the last house on the block would be off the hill. And also there's another house right adjacent to them, Larry Roberts, who wrote in a letter too. And the house I just discussed was Andy Coons, who wrote in a letter. There's a house on George Mason that's very tall. And honestly, from their garden, you can look into that house's bedroom windows. It's so close already, they couldn't move down. And so I guess we just think it's unfair that that there should be a double setback on one side. And that was the main thing that we couldn't have predicted. The other neighbors couldn't have predicted that they would just choose to reverse the setbacks. But the main point with the timeliness is that we were prevented from appealing on time, because this builder led me to believe that there was going to be 16 feet on my side. And that's why I think that's why I'm asking for an exception in this case, because although you only have a 30-day window, he misled me within that 30-day window, so I wouldn't have a timely appeal. And I guess the implication of this going forward too is that if builders can do this, if they know that there's a strict 30-day cutoff, then isn't that, you know, an incentive for builders to lie so that homeowners aren't going to appeal? They can have uncontested building permits. And for what it's worth, we have 5 kids, and they're all in Arlington schools. We've also lived here over 25 years, and this is really personal for us. We've lived on the street 16 years, and we've raised our kids on the street. We're friends with all the neighbors. That we really care about this particular street, not just Arlington, but we love this street, and we love our home. And now I feel like our home is destroyed. It's destroyed in terms of privacy and light. And I feel like we were just bulldozed and misled to have this building put up next to us. And it's not fair that we're not heard, and that the other neighbors on the street aren't heard as well. And then I guess that's mainly what I wanted to say, but I also did want to bring up that that this was a case of fraud. He defrauded me. He knew that this close setback would harm my property, and it will, in terms of property value, and light and safety and everything else. But that's why he lied. Like I said, he certainly could have answered that text in many different ways that would have been honest, but he did not. And he had already established himself as the contact earlier. And that all permits are supposed to have this 30-day appeal, and that we were harmed by it. And the reason for it is because, yes, Arlington did approve this, but it's hard for one reviewer to look at a parcel and say, okay, it falls within the setbacks, and so we can approve it, but without thinking about the downstream effects or how other neighbors might be affected by it too. That's the reason for the 30-day window. And he prevented us from being able to appeal within it. So I just like you to consider our voice and all of the other 11 neighbors that have written in, and as we are representing them here tonight too.
Anything further?
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have a speaker we need to hear from.
Major Sutter, I'm sorry, he's actually in North Carolina right now. He was going to speak, but he texted me that it was getting so late. He's got young kids too, so that it was okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do my colleagues have questions for either of the parties? If we do, we'll start with the county. No.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I guess the issue now is the time frame, correct? Having lived in various neighborhoods where monster houses were built, and I'm not passing judgment on this house per se, but the neighbors quite frequently are displeased. But the way the operation works, as I understand it, if you go in for a building permit and you meet all the requirements, setbacks, coverage, height, you get a building permit. And unlike the cases that we have where you have public notice and participation for use permits and variances, that doesn't apply to regular building applications, as I understand it. Now, with the EHOs, we had a different issue, but at the moment, mercifully, we're not having to address those issues. But even in that case, that illustrated the potential harm that can come when building permits are approved without any public comment or notice. So as sympathetic as I might be to having a large house built next to a not so large house, that is extremely common, more often than I certainly would like, because most of the bigger houses that are being built are completely unaffordable and don't address the lack of inventory, let alone affordability, but that's a different issue. So I think that I understand the parameters that have been presented, but as I understand it, we are only dealing with the timeliness. And it appears that the zoning administrator was correct in her decision.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCroskey?
Yeah, I'll just make the point that unfortunately this board is, as they like to say, a creature of statute. And we are sort of stuck with only being able to do what is allowed under the state law that creates us and gives us our authority. And that includes, we can only hear appeals that have been brought within the 30-day period, and doesn't really allow us to make exceptions. to even consider whether there's something that merits an exception. So we are in that position. And I think that because the appeal was clearly not filed within the 30-day window, we don't really have a choice here but to find this to be untimely.
Anything further?
Yeah,
No.
it's unfortunate that that Ms. Wilson didn't have benefit of staff input and relied on the contractor for information. I think that's part of the problem. And that's, I know, 2020 hindsight. If she has an issue, it really becomes a private matter between, if she feels aggrieved. I don't think it's a government matter in this case.
I agree completely. I think the owner did everything that he had to do by right, and I think it kind of ends there.
Thank you. I'll just, I just wanted to say that, after reviewing all of the messages back and forth between the parties, and both sides have the homeowner or the builder and the appellant here has given, amounts of text messages. And I just think that this is a very unfortunate case in which I don't know that I would assuage bad faith to anyone, but I feel like there was just a miscommunication or talking past each other. And I do find it unfortunate that in the original text message that it said, "I have a question in the setbacks for the house you're building. Just want to make sure you're building according to the Arlington zoning requirements. See pic below. It is 16 feet from the property line." According to, it is 16 feet from the property line. And then the response to that was, "Yes, our plan has met Arlington zoning approval." If the builder or the owner, and I don't have that in front of me, if the person had responded, yes, it has met Arlington zoning approval, which allows 8 foot, I don't think we would be here, right? That's a different story, or we would be here with a timely appeal. So I'm a little troubled that this appellant did reach out and was told it met with Arlington zoning approval, and that this applicant's understanding that meant it was 16 feet, right? So I think there was just a little misunderstanding there from the beginning, that zoning, yes, it got zoning approval, but it wasn't 16 feet. And I think if that had been cleared up from the beginning, then we might not be here, or we might be here on a timely basis. So, at the end of the day, I think everyone here is correct that we have a 30-day timeline, but I'm also a little troubled by the appellant's argument that if we deny this on timeliness, then how does that affect, a unscrupulous builder, which I'm not saying we have here, who then tries to block what they're doing in order to not get before us. And so I'm thinking that through. But I just wanted to say that I think that this is just a very unfortunate set of facts that are before us.
Motion?
Where the public part is closed, and so now the discussions with the board. And so that, Mr. Kamana?
Yeah, just to confirm with you, they're under no legal obligation to share plans, setback.
I'm not the person.
Or by right?
For by right.
For by right.
Yeah, they're not required to share any information of their build.
I'm not a expert in that area, so that maybe that's a question for staff.
Okay. Are they? Meaning if I built a brand new house on my lot right now by right, do I have to notify anyone of anything?
A building permit, once it's issued, will be set on the property, I believe, but that's kind of, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be issued right away. I can, wait until the building demolition starts, right?
I think if there's,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Repeat the question, sorry.
So a building permit obviously has to be posted on the property, but it doesn't have to be posted the day it was issued. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to phrase that like I know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess.
And right.
You have to put it in your front window or
When you
post.
start though, but can I hold
or
it for 30
post it
days?
on a, yeah. But I think if there's a question,
I guess the question is how does it, right? So if I get a demolition permit for my house and a building permit for my house, how does anyone, and this is, I'm going down a rabbit hole, I guess, but how does anyone even know, right? Like,
I mean, that's the definition of
problem.
by right.
Yeah.
That's the definition of by
Yeah.
right, is that they have a right to do it and
no, but
Yeah.
but then,
and so there's not a
But what-
requirement.
no
what if the-
interference.
but what if the county approves an error, right? So the appellant here is
Estoppel.
the appellant here is arguing that a building permit got approved in error based on zoning that is now before us. So what if the county in error approves my setback? I hold my building permit because I don't have to post it the day I get it, and I hold it for 60 days past any appeals process. How would anyone even know?
It's interesting because what,
Yeah, so yes, it's by right, but
so
we get errors all the time.
if it's a zoning issue, I mean, there is an inspection process and it may be caught in the inspection process.
Right.
Okay, then there's a violation. And then it comes to the BZA. Because
Right.
we've had cases where things have been permitted incorrectly, and now they come to BZA for
Right.
us to figure out what to do.
Right.
So there is that inspection fail-safe. You know, obviously, if the building permit is issued in error and the inspectors do not catch it at some point.
Right.
You know, it
Or
could
they
go-
catch it when the whole building is built and nobody has the nerve to
That-
say tear it down.
Right. I mean, I guess that's the question.
We've had
Yeah,
that
you know,
too.
it's- yeah,
But
yeah.
there is, the inspection process, you know, that zoning has is supposed to catch
That's a good-
building permit errors. Now, there could be other errors
Right.
that happen, but zoning errors are caught and brought to us. And that appeal process starts when the error is found.
Error is
And
found.
and it's really between the county and between the applicant, the builder.
But anyone can, so if a occupancy permit is issued in error, anyone can challenge that. I mean, that, yes, it's between the county, but just like here, anyone can challenge that. That might not come to us because it's a building, it's an occupancy permit.
Right.
But that would be, you know, I don't know, you know, what the actual, I assume the zoning process is done now. See, I'm troubled that like, obviously there's no public notice when a by right project is approved, even if it's approved in error.
Yeah, it's
And that's
presumed.
well beyond the scope of any authority we have here. That's the county process who promulgates that process. But I'm a little troubled by, you know, I just became aware of this problem or was misled by a builder, and now the 30 days has passed. I'm a little troubled, maybe not for the facts in this case, but in any number of facts that could come before us.
If they can demonstrate it's a zoning error, then they get the clock. They, you know, when they
But they have to demonstrate that within 30 days that.
No, let's say on inspection, that happens all the time. On inspection, they do a wall check and the wall's in the wrong place. It immediately
But
comes to BZA.
But a neighbor wouldn't know that, right?
No, but zoning picks it up.
Right, but that doesn't help the aggrieved neighbor right now, right? That's between the county and the builder. This is the one opportunity a third party has to challenge the granting of a zoning determination, or in this case, a zoning plan.
If the county had made an error, then they can be on the, you know, then they can make they could make an appeal if they could demonstrate that the county made an error.
If who can demonstrate that the county made an error?
Anybody.
There are some different rules that apply when it's an error. But
If
for a standard
this was
appeal-
non-conforming, if this had been approved in.
Yeah,
error,
I'm just troubled that this is really the appellant's only opportunity to get a zoning issue, again, without talking about the underlying merits, this is really the only standing that a neighbor has, other than, trying to convince the county that they made a mistake or that they're interpreting the zoning rules wrong.
So if they could convince the county that there was a zoning error, they could make an appeal.
At some future unknown time, right? What would they appeal? Right? I mean, what would that homeowner appeal though? They have to have.
That there was an incorrect zoning decision made.
But what's that decision?
Okay.
But that would be for them to.
What do you
determine.
mean?
I think the decision's already been made, right? I mean, the zoning approval has already been granted for this project. There's not another zoning determination that's going to be made.
If an applicant can demonstrate that the zoning was granted in error,
Right.
then it comes to us.
But that
But
requires,
now,
that requires in the case of any building permit that the aggrieved party reach out to the county, not to the guy digging the ditch.
To the county.
I mean, that's the point is that, when there's a red flag or a red sign posted, if you are curious about what it is, even if it's not directly beside you,
and
you'd have to follow up because nobody else is going to do it.
this person, this appellant did that just outside the 30 days.
Didn't go to the county
No.
in that 30 days.
Because they thought that there was no issue within the 30 days. They only became aware of the issue
But that
after
was
the 30
that
days.
information.
That was
might
my
have-
point. They relied on a private party.
That's what I'm saying, right.
Rather than the county.
Right.
They could have gone to the county and asked.
They could have gone to the county and asked.
Yeah.
There's a project here. So I guess that's the moment in time that is the
But
issue.
that's my point is that when
Yeah.
there's anything going on, you go to the source of the permit to find out if it's legit and if you have any kind of a case for complaint. So anyway, can I make a motion?
Are those, Ms. Ryan, if I'm a neighbor and my neighbor is building a new house, am I entitled to see those plans?
I think you can definitely request it, especially like a FOIA request.
But a FOIA request takes time though, right? So,
Oh, Stephen has his hand raised.
Mr. Rissy,
Yes, you are not entitled to see the plans if your neighbor is building a new house and they're doing it by right. You can request a FOIA, but FOIA has exceptions for
Right.
single-family residential dwellings. And so some plans can be released to you, but others cannot. But you don't have a right to see your neighbor's plans if it is by right.
And probably not within 30 days.
and so that gets back to my point is why I'm troubled here is that it might be that this appellant did everything they possibly could have to determine this and, accepted what I'm going to call a misunderstanding in a text message. And so like, I'm not sure under what Ms. Ryan and Mr. Rissy said that this appellant could have done anything different then.
Mr. Rissy, if a resident calls and asks about what the correct zoning setback is, would they get an answer? Not, just as information.
Ms. Malice, as I think Arlova has mentioned, it's entirely speculative. It depends on the question they're asking. It depends on the information that we're given at the time they're asking the question. I can't answer that for every case. It is possible that we could give them the setbacks that were approved. It is possible that they would need to get that through a FOIA request.
But you could direct them to the zoning ordinance so that they could see what the zoning ordinance says.
We can always direct people to the zoning ordinance, correct?
I think it's also true that probably the very general parts of the plans are available to be looked at. What is protected under FOIA these days, and I haven't done the research on this, but in general, what's protected is you having sort of the private aspects of the details of the construction of your house. But if you wanted to see the general outline of where the house is going to be located, those documents are probably available to be seen for somebody who comes in. I mean, we'd have to do some research to make sure the details, but I think there's a way. It's not that this information is all hidden. It is true that there's a privacy aspect to FOIA that protects people from having the details of everything they're doing in their house shown to whoever comes in and out.
And I think, right, my point is just, I'm not sure that this appellant could have done anything different given the text message string that has been gone that would have resulted in getting that information sooner.
Motion?
Motion.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals find that the appeal application in case V-12061-25-APP-1 was submitted after the time frame set forth in Virginia Code 15.2-2311, and that consequently the building permit RNEU 24-05785 is final and unappealable.
Second.
Second. A motion to uphold the zoning administrator as an untimely appeal made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. McCoskey. Is there any further discussion? I will just add that I will not support this for the reasons aforementioned. I will call the roll. Hearing nothing else. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes no. Motion for denial on timeliness passes 4-0. 4-1. Would anyone else like to make any more motions?
I move approval of the minutes from April 23, 2025 BZA hearing.
Second.
On approval of April 25 BZA hearing minutes made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. McCoskey for revised minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Anything further?
I move approval of minutes from June 11, 2025 BZA hearing.
Second.
A motion for June 11th, 2025 minutes made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. McCoskey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Here for that? June, last month.
Yeah. No.
You weren't here.
Abstain.
You should have, you need to abstain. No worries. Mr. Kumana, do you want to revise your vote?
I abstain.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0 to 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice,
can I just ask staff about the new system, online system?
please.
You have a new online system for this something called One Something that has the agendas? Is that
Yeah,
your-
we've switched programs to a different.
You know, it's not working very well. You know, there were hours when it was just simply unavailable. Even today, I got messages that, you know,
During the
try
meeting.
back later.
During
Yeah.
the meeting, it was unavailable today, multiple times.
Are you aware of the problems?
We noticed once that it was out when we were having issues with the program itself, but we can let IT know.
Yeah, there was one day where it was just gone. You know, it just wouldn't load. And it happened again today. I mean, every time I've looked, at some point it fails.
Okay,
And
thank you for letting
it's
me know.
not just for us, it's really a public, we have ways of getting this information that not other people, you know. But anyway, it's yeah.
Anything further? The agenda having been completed, this hearing is adjourned. I will see everyone in September.
Oh, have a good summer.
Who let us take